Hello. Ooh. Sorry, let me move that little bar out of the way. Hello, campers. Welcome to our reading stream. Today we will be reading the Mammoth Book of Thrillers, Ghosts, and Mysteries. It is a book from 1936. I faithfully found this in a. So this book has a little bit of history with me. It's this isn't the original book that I had. I bought this one online because the first one I left behind in Ireland by accident. Even though it meant a lot to me and I really, really wanted to take it with me. I didn't have space, so I had to, make do. I found this book for like $10 at some random ass secondhand bookstore when my mom basically had this phase of going out and taking me on trips to some random ruins and things just so she could post them online. So I begged and begged her to take me to a secondhand bookstore that was local to like this little tiny town with a ruin of a castle there. And I've stumbled across this book in particular, and it is truly a wonderful book. I don't think I've ever finished it, but I do promise you that the stories within are very worthwhile to listen to, and I hope that I'll be able to provide a good listening experience for all of you with my narration. I hope that, for immersion purposes, my stream overlay isn't too distracting, as well as that you'll be able to hear the pages turning as I turn them, because that'd be kind of awesome. Also, my chair might creak, but maybe that's just gonna add to even more ambiance, Imagine I'm sitting on like this really, really creaky chair in this old ass manner. Also, I'm sorry for swearing. I feel like I'm like insulting the book because of my potty mouth. I feel like I should be more mature when reading this. But yes, hello, welcome. I will not be reading chat today because it's less interactive and more treat this like an ASMR without the tag. But yes, ASMR RP, your camp leader reads things to you. Yes. Yes. Thank you for everybody for coming. I will now begin. You guys want the blurbs? Maybe there is some it's edited by J.M. Parrish and John R. Crossland. Autumn's Press Limited, Longacre, London. Copyright 1936. So I think I think I'm way past that, and I can probably read it. Hopefully, without getting struck into oblivion. I hope that everybody that has written all of this is dead. Not in like a bad way, but in like a I hope I can read this legally way. But yes, there are a few stories here. Basically, the contents of this book contain a lot of like what we would now call one-shot stories. One-shots. There's a lot of short stories about basically, phantoms, ghosts, thrillers, mysteries, and the like. The book altogether, I think, has like around 800 pages, approximately 800 pages. So we have like a lot to go through. I'm not particularly sure how many stories there are. We will be beginning with The Diver by A.J. Allen. And the blurb for that is a strange place to see a ghost and a strange thing for a ghost to do. But then this apparition was a swart, which is to an ordinary ghost what a boojum is to a snark, a rare kind. Also, I apologize for anybody that may be illiterate because I feel like we're in the same boat. We're going to be struggling reading this book. It's been a while since I've heard the word snark. So this is absolutely going to be it's going to be a treat. There are some illustrations, however, they are few and far between. So we will be not. I could like take pictures of them and put them up, but you know, yeah. Yes. Okay. There is also a little bit of information about the author right above the chapter. Can you? Oh my God, I forgot to. That's my aerosol. I'm so sorry. You might hear it every couple of hours. It's my immersion. Just treat it like a creaky door. It's just this ominous attic creak. And if you hear my dad coming in, it's a ghost. It's a ghost of this manor. Okay. A.J. Allen has, with the coming of a broadcasting age, reintroduced the art of telling tales instead of writing them. His stories are taken down in shorthand as he stands at the microphone. The Diver, taken from his volume of short stories, Good Evening Everyone, ! Is a good example of the new technique developed out of the contact between the storyteller and his invisible audience. Okay, and now we shall... Actually, let me just move my keyboard a little bit so I have more space. I would have done a hand cam, however, I dyed my hair, and now my fingernails are pink, and I'm not about that. Okay. The Diver. For some reason or other, the BBC are always asking me to tell a ghost story. At least, they don't ask me. They tell me I've got to. I say, what kind of ghost story? And they say, any kind you like, so long as it's a personal experience and perfectly true. Just like that, and it's cramped my style a bit. Not that my personal experiences aren't true, please don't think that. But it's simply this, that when it comes to supernatural matters, my luck hasn't been very good. It isn't that I don't believe in such things on principle, but I do like to be present when the manifestations actually occur, instead of just taking other people's word for them, and somehow or other, as I've said before, my luck has not been very good. Lots of people have tried to convert me. There was one young woman in particular. She took a lot of trouble about it, quite a lot. She used to take me to all sorts of parties where they had seances, you know the kind, table turning, planchette, and so on. But it wasn't any good. Nothing ever happened when I was there. Nothing spiritual, that is. People always said, "Ah, my boy, you ought to have been here last night. The table fairly got up and hit us in the face." Possibly, very wonderful, but after all, the ground will do that if you let it. Well, as I say, they took me to several of these parties, and we used to sit for hours round tables in a dim light holding hands. That was rather fun sometimes. It depended on who one sat next to. But apart from that, the nights they took me, no manifestations ever occurred. Planchette wouldn't spell a word, and the table might have been screwed to the floor. To begin with, they used to put it down to chance, or the conditions not being favorable. But after a time, they began to put it down to me. And I thought, something will have to be done about it. It's never amusing to be looked upon as a sort of Jonah. So I invented a patent table tapper. It was made on the same principle as lazy tongs. You held it between your knees, and when you squeezed it, a little mallet shot up. It was really a cotton reel stuck on the end of a pencil, and it hit the underneath of the table a proper biff. It was worked entirely with the knees, so that I could still hold the hands of the people on either side of me, and it was a success from the word go. At the very next seance, as soon as the lights were down, I gave just a gentle tap. Our host said, a powerful force is present, and I gave a louder bonk, and then he said, how do you say yes? And I said, punk. Then he said, how do you say no? And I said, punk punk. So far, so good. Communication established. Then people began asking questions, and I spelt out the answers. Awful hard honking right through the alphabet, but quite worth it. I'm afraid some of my answers made people sit up a bit. They got quite nervous as to what was coming next. Needless to say, this was some years ago. Then someone said, Who's going to win the derby? I don't know who said that, and I laboriously spelled out Signorinetta. This was 2 days before the race. I don't know why I said Signorinetta, because there were several horses with shorter names, but it just came into my head. The annoying thing was that I didn't take my own tip and back it. You may remember it won at 100 to 1 by I don't know how many lengths. 5 lengths dividing second and third. However, it's no use crying the stable door. There's no use crying over the stable door after the horse has spilt the milk, and it has nothing whatever to do with the story. The amusing thing was that when the seance was over, various people came around to me and said, "Now will you believe in spiritualism? What more proof do you want?" And so on and so forth. It struck me as rather rich that they should try to convert me with my own false evidence, and I don't mind betting that if I'd owned up to the whole thing being a spoof, not a soul would have believed me. That's always the way. I've told you all this to show I'm not exactly dippy on the subject of spiritualism. At any rate, not the table-turning variety, very largely because it is so easy to fake your results. But when something genuinely uncanny comes along, why, then I'm one of the very first to be duly thrilled and mystified and whatnot. It's one of those genuine cases I want to tell you about. It happened to me personally. But first of all, you must know that there's a swimming bath at my club. Very good swimming bath, too. Deep at one end and shallow at the other. There's a sort of hall place adjoining it, and in this hall there's a sandwich bar. Very popular. It's much cheaper than lunching upstairs. Quite a lot of people seem to gravitate down there, especially towards the end of the month. Everything's quite informal. You just go to the counter and snatch what you want and take it to a table and eat it. Then, when you're done, you go and tell George what you've had. George runs the show, and he says 1 and 9 pence, or whatever it is, and that's that. Personally, I usually go to a table in a little recess close to the edge of the swimming bath itself. You have to go down a few steps to get to it. You're rather out of the turmoil and not so likely to get anything spilt over you. It's quite dangerous sometimes, people darting in and out like a lot of sharks. Which reminds me, a member once wrote in to the secretary complaining that the place wasn't safe. I shan't say who it was, but you'd know his name if I told you. I managed to get a hold of a copy of his letter. This is what he says, speaking of the sandwich bar. "I once saw an enormous shark, at least 5 feet 10 inches long, go up to the counter and seize a sausage roll, itself nearly 4 inches long, and take it away to devour it. When he had bitten off the end, which he did with a single snap of his powerful jaws, he found that it was empty. The sausage, which ought to have been inside, had completely vanished. It had been stolen by another shark, even more ferocious than himself. Never shall I forget the awful spectacle of the baffled and impotent rage of this fearful monster. He went back to the counter, taking the empty sarcophagus with him, and said, 'George, I have been stung.' In order to avoid such scenes of unparalleled and revolting cruelty, after that he is rather inclined to exaggerate, so I shan't read any more, I usually go late, when the rush is over and it's fairly quiet. People come and practice diving, and sometimes they are worth watching, and sometimes not. That's the sort of place it is, and if you know of anywhere less likely to be haunted, I would like to see it." Very well, then. One day I was just finishing lunch, when there was a splash. I was reading a letter, and didn't look up at once. But when I did, I was rather surprised to see no ripples on the water, and no one swimming about. So I went on with my letter, and didn't think any more about it. That was all that happened that day. 2 or 3 weeks later, at about the same time, I was again finishing lunch, and there was another splash. This time I looked up almost at once and saw the ripples. And it struck me then that it must have been an extraordinarily clean dive, considering that whoever it was must have gone on off the top. One could tell from where the ripples were well out in the middle. So I waited for him to come up. But he didn't come up. Then I thought that he must be doing a length underwater, and I got up and went to the edge of the bath to watch for him. But still, he didn't come up, and I got a bit worried. He might have bumped his head on the bottom or fainted or anything, and I saw myself having to go in after him with all my clothes on. I sprinted right around the bath. There was undoubtedly no one in it. The attendant came out of one of the dressing rooms and evidently thought I'd gone cracked, so I went to the waiting machine and weighed myself. 11 stone 8, But I don't think he believed me. That was the second incident. The third came about a fortnight later. This time, I saw the whole thing quite clearly. I was sitting at my usual table, and I saw a man climbing up the ladder leading to the top diving board. When he got up, there he came out to the extreme end of the plank and stood for a few seconds rubbing his chest and so on, like people often do. He was rather tall and muscular, dark, with a small mustache. But what particularly caught my eye was a great big scar he had. It was about 9 inches long, and it reached down from his left shoulder towards the middle of his chest. It looked like a bad gash with a bayonet. It must have hurt quite a lot when it was done. I don't know why I took so much notice of him, but I just did, that's all. And funnily enough, he seemed to be just as much interested in me as I was in him. He gave me a most meaning look. I didn't know what it meant, but it was undoubtedly a meaning look. As soon as he saw that he got me watching him, he dived in, and it was the most gorgeous dive I've ever seen. Hardly any noise or splash, just a gentle sort of plop, as though he'd gone into oil rather than water. And the ripples died away almost at once. I thought if only he'll do that a few more times, it'll teach me a lot, and I waited for him to come up, and waited, but not a sign. I went to the edge of the bath, and then I walked right around it. But, bar the water, it was perfectly empty. However, to make absolutely certain, that he couldn't have gone out without me seeing him, I dug out the attendant and satisfied myself that no towels and costumes had been given out since 12 o'clock. It was then 2:30, and he, the attendant, he'd actually seen the last man leave. Okay, She's lagging. Now that I've switched Wi-Fi, it should be better now. I apologize for my unprofessionalism. I apologize. Okay. Let me see. Bayonet. Last man leave. Okay. The thing was getting quite serious. My scarred friend couldn't have melted away in the water, nor could he have dived slap through the bottom of the bath. At least, not without leaving some sort of mark. So it was obvious that either the man had been a ghost, which was absurd. Who's ever heard of a ghost in a swimming bath? The idea is too utterly wet for anything. Or that there was something wrong with the light lager I was having for lunch. I went back to my table and found it hardly begun it. And in any case, let me tell you, it was such light lager that a gallon of it wouldn't have hurt a child of 6. And I'm not a child of 6. So I ruled that out and decided to wait and see if it happened again. It wouldn't have done to say anything about it. One's friends are apt to be a bit flippant when you tell them things like that. However, I made a point of sitting at the same table for weeks and weeks afterwards, but old Stick in the Mud didn't show up again. A good long time after this, it must have been 18 months or more, I got an invitation to dine with some people called Pringle. They were old friends of mine, but I hadn't seen them for a long time because they'd mostly lived in Mexico, and one rather loses touch with people at that distance. Anyway, they were going back there in a few days, and this was a sort of farewell dinner. They'd given up their flat and were staying at a hotel. They'd get another man dining with them. His name was Melwish, and he was, with one exception, the most offensive blighter I've ever come across. Do you know those people who open their mouths to contradict what you're going to say before you've even begun to say it? Well, he did that, among other things. It was rather difficult to be entirely civil to him. He was traveling back to Mexico with the Pringles as he'd got the job of manager to one of their properties. Something to do with oil, but I didn't quite grasp what. My mind was so taken up with trying to remember where on earth I'd seen the man before. Of course, you all know. You know he was the man who dived into the swimming bath. It sticks out about a mile, naturally, but I'd only seen him once before in a bad light, and it took me till halfway through the fish to place him. Then I came back with a rush, and my interest in him became very lively. He was an American, derogatory, and he came over to England 2 months before, looking for a job, so he said. I asked him why he'd left America, and he didn't hear, but it did seem fairly certain that he'd never been in Europe before. So when we got to dessert, I proceeded to drop my brick. I said, "Do you mind telling me whether you have a scar on your chest like this?" And I had described it. The Pringles just stared, but Melwish looked as if he was going to have a fit. Then he pulled himself together and said, "Have you ever been in America?" And I said, "No, not that I know of." Then he said, "Well, it's the most extraordinary thing, but I have a scar on my chest." And he went on to explain how he'd got it. Funnily enough, he'd gone in for high diving a lot when he was younger, and taking any amount of prizes, and on one occasion he'd found a sharp stake at the bottom of a river. He gave us full particulars, very messy. What they all wanted to know was how I knew anything about it. Of course, it was a great temptation to tell him, but I'd only have thought I'd gone off my rocker, so I started a hair about perhaps having seen the photograph of his swimming club in some newspaper or other. They caught on to that idea quite well, so I left them to it. The whole thing was by way of being rather a problem, and it kept me awake at night. Without being up in such matters, it did occur to me that it might be a warning of some kind. Is it likely that anyone, or even a ghost, would take the trouble to come all the way from America simply to show me how well he could dive? Of course not, and I sort of thought that a man who was in the habit of going in off the deep end and not coming up again was no fit traveling companion for any friends of mine. I'm not superstitious, goodness knows. Of course, I don't walk under ladders or light 3 matches with 1 cigarette or any of those things, but that's because they're unlucky, not because I'm superstitious. Anyway, in case the Pringles might be, I went around next day and saw them. At least I saw her, he was out, and told her all about the apparition at the club and so on. That did it. She fairly went off pop. It was a direct intervention of Providence. Nothing would induce her to travel with Melwish after what she'd heard, and all the rest of it. I left her to carry on the good work. I didn't know how she managed it, but the fact remains that the Pringles did not start for Mexico as arranged, and Melwish did. And now you're expecting me to say that the ship in which he sailed was never heard of again. But that wouldn't be strictly true. He got to the other side all right. But the train in which he was traveling through Mexico had to cross a bridge over a river. A steel bridge it was. Now, some months previously, there'd been a slight scrap between 2 local bands of brigands, in the course of which the bridge had been blown up. When the quarrel was patched up, the bridge was patched up too, but not with the meticulous care it might have been. The result was that in the daytime, when the sun was hot and the steelwork fully expanded, it was a perfectly good bridge. But at night, when it was cold and the girders had shrunk a bit, well, it didn't always quite meet in the middle. It so happened that the train in question tried to cross this wretched bridge at the very moment when it was having rather a job to make both ends meet. And it simply couldn't bear it. The middle span carried away, and the engine and 2 carriages crashed through the river. And 14 people were killed. It was very sad about 13 of them, but the 14th was Mr. Melwish. There must be a moral to this story, if I could only think of it, but I can't, so perhaps some of you can help me by suggesting one. And that was The Diver by A.J. Allen. That was a quite interesting one. I like that he writes. I'm not particularly sure whether or not. I mean, obviously, I don't particularly think this is like a first person, like his own experience. However, he does write really well, especially for the time where I don't think it's very common for them to write things in in first person. Don't drink don't do it, or else you're I don't know, have visions of a guy that might die in a train accident. But yeah, that one was good. I thought it was kind of fun. Let me just get a drink. I was sure he was not 6-year-old. I mean, he was insisting upon it. So maybe, perhaps. Also, I said I wouldn't be reading chat, but I guess. Okay, well, I'm not gonna be reading chat during the stories, but we're gonna have a little I guess reconnaissance after the stories, so you can get a little bit of a rating. It insists upon itself. Yes. Mm-hmm. It was from the perspective of the guy telling you the story in person. Had that end get a load of this next part, kind of. Yeah. It's just some dude trying to really tell a really good story in I feel like he'd be the life of the party. Like, no matter what he would tell you, like, somehow you'd be convinced that he's right. A little bit of a read. Yeah, this is just a tiny bit of a read. Okay. The next one is the ghoul of Golders Green. And the blurb for that is, digging graves in dress clothes and in the early hours of the morning was hardly what Beau Maturin had bargained for when he decided to play knight errant to the young lady in distress. And it's written by Michael Arlen. Bruh, not them. Oh my god. The fact they write the birthday, but not the death day. But this guy was born in 1895, and I don't think he's still alive. Oh god. The last one doesn't even have a birthday, but this guy has a birthday. And it comes with like a little sketch of him. It's like black and white. Yes, was born in Bulgaria of Armenian parents. He was educated at Malvern College. He introduced a gay, sly, mildly satirical way of describing the jaunts and jollities of Mayfair that soon brought him many readers. Not a few of them from Mayfair. Among his many successful books are The Green Hat, Lily Christine, and These Charming People. Grimness, as the story shows, sometimes alternates with gaiety. Dude is a vampire. He's vampire coded. His real name is Dikran Koyomadjan. Yes, I absolutely did not say that correctly, but yes, his real name is not Michael Arlen. I feel like he donned that name to be able to publish his stuff easier. Okay, let us begin. The Ghoul of Golders Green. It is fortunate that the affair should have happened to Mr. Ralph Wyndham Trevor and be told by him, for Mr. Trevor is a scholar of some authority. It is in a spirit of almost ominous premonition that he begins the tale, telling how he was walking slowly up Davy Street one night when he caught a crab. Crab? It need scarcely be said that Davy Street owes its name to that Mary Davies, the heiress who married into the noble house of Grosvenor. That was years and years ago, of course, and is of no importance whatsoever now, but it may be of interest to students. It was very late on a winter's night, and Mr. Trevor was depressed, for he had that evening lost a great deal more than he could afford at the card game of auction bridge. Davies Street was deserted, and the moon and Mr. Trevor walked alone towards Berkeley Square. It was not the sort of moon that Mr. Trevor remembered having seen before. It was, indeed, the sort of moon one usually meets only in books or wine. Mr. Trevor was sober. Nothing happened, Mr. Trevor affirms, for quite a while. He just walked and, at that corner where Davy Street and Mount Street joined together the better to become a Berkeley Square, stayed his walking with the idea that he would soothe his depression with the fumes of a cigarette. His cigarette case, however, was empty. All London, says Mr. Trevor, appeared to be empty that night. Berkeley Square lay pallid and desolate, looking clear, not as though with moonlight, but with dead daylight, and never a voice to put life into the still streets, never a breeze to play with the bits of paper in the gutters, or to sing among the dry boughs of the trees. Berkeley Square looked like nothing so much as an old stage property that no one had any use for. Mr. Trevor had no use at all for it, and became definitely antagonistic to it when the taxicab crawled wretchedly across the wide expanse, and the driver, a man in a Homburg hat of green plush, looked into his face with a beseeching look. "Taxi, sir?" he said. Mr. Trevor says that, not wanting to hurt the man's feelings, he just looked another way. "Nice night, sir," said the driver miserably, "for a drive in an hackney carriage." "I live," said Mr. Trevor with restraint, "only a few doors off, so hackney carriage to you." "No luck," sighed the driver, and accelerated madly away even as Mr. Trevor changed his mind. For would it not be an idea to drive to the nearest coffee stall and buy some cigarettes? This, however, he was not to do, for there was no other reply to his repeated calls of "taxi," but certain heavy blows on the silence of Davy Street behind him. "Wanting a taxi, sir?" said a voice which could only belong to a policeman. "Certainly not," said Mr. Trevor bitterly. "I never want a taxi. But now and then a taxi driver thrusts himself on me and pays me to be seen in his cab, just to give it a tone. Next question." "Ho!" said the policeman thoughtfully. "I beg your pardon?" said Mr. Trevor. "Ho!" said the policeman thoughtfully. "The extent of your vocabulary," said Mr. Trevor gloomily, "leads me to the conclude that you must have been born a gentleman. Have you in that case a cigarette you could spare?" "Gaspers," said the policeman. "Thank you," said Mr. Trevor, rejecting them. "I am no stranger to ptomaine poisoning." "That's funny," said the policeman. "You're saying that. I was just thinking of death." "Death," said Mr. Trevor. "You've said it," said the policeman. "I've said what?" said Mr. Trevor. "Death," said the policeman. "Oh, death," said Mr. Trevor. "I always say death, constable. It's my favorite word. Ghoulish, I call it, sir. Ghoulish, no less." "That entirely depends," said Mr. Trevor, "on what you are talking about. In some things, ghoulish is as ghoulish does. In others, no." "You've said it," said the policeman. "But ghoulish goes in this ear affair, one after the other lying in their own blood, and not a sign as to who's done it. Not a sign." "Oh, come, constable, tut-tut. Not even a thumb mark in the blood?" "I'm telling you," said the policeman severely. "Corpses slit to ribbons all the way from Hampstead Heath to this 'ere Berkeley Square." "And why? That's what I asks myself. And why?" "Of course," said Mr. Trevor gaily, "there certainly have been a lot of murders lately. But not, surely, as many as all that." "I'm coming to that," said the policeman severely. "We don't allow of the press reporting more than a quarter of them. No, sir. That what it has come to these last few days. A more painful situation has rarely arisen in the annals of British crime. The unheard of bestiality of the criminal may well baffle ordinary minds like yours and mine." "I don't believe a word of it," snapped Mr. Trevor. "Oh, you don't," said the policeman. "You don't." "That's right," said Mr. Trevor. "I don't. Do you mean to stand there and tell me that I wouldn't have heard of this criminal if he had recently existed?" "You're a gent," said the policeman. "You've said it," said Mr. Trevor. "And gents," said the policeman, "know nothing. And what they know is mouldy. Ever heard of Jack the Ripper?" "Yes, I have," said Mr. Trevor bitterly. "Have is right, sir, if you'll excuse me. Well, Jack's death was never rightly proved, not it. So it might well be him at his old tricks again, even though he has been retired in a manner of speaking these 40 years. Remorseless and indiscriminate murder, swift and sure, was Jack's line, if you remember, sir." "Before my time," said Mr. Trevor gloomily. "Well, Jack's method was just to slit him up with a razor, frontwise and from south to north, and not a blessed word spoken. No one's touched him yet, not for efficiency, but this new chap, he looks like catching Jack up. And at Jack's own game, razor and all. Makes a man fair sick, sir, to see the completed work. Just slits him up as clean as you or me might slit up a veal pie. We was laying bets on him over at Vine Street only tonight, curious like to see whether he'd beat Jack's record. But it'll take some beating, I give you my word. Up to date, this chap's is only done in 12 and 3 weeks. Not that. That's half bad, seeing as how he's new to them game, more or less." "Or rather, more or less," said Mr. Trevor faintly. 12, good God, only 12. But why? Why don't you catch that ghastly man?" "Ho! Why don't we?" said the policeman. "Because we don't know how, that's why. Not us. It's the little one corpsemen we're good for, not these here big artists. Look at Jack the Ripper. Did we catch him? Did we? And look at Julian Raphael. Did we catch him? I'm asking you." "I know you are," said Mr. Trevor gratefully. "Thank you." "I don't want your thanks," said the policeman. "I'm just warning you." Mr. Trevor gasped. "Warning me?" "You've said it," said the policeman. "You don't ought to be out alone at this time of night. An hardy young chap like you. These 12 years already done in here, all hardy young chaps. He's partial to 'em. Hardy, I do believe. And social gents, some of them too, with top hats to hand, just like you might be now, sir, coming home from a smoking concert. Jack the Ripper all over again, that's what I say, except that this here new corpse fancier, he don't seem to fancy women at all." "Ha! Chap's murderer, what?" said Mr. Trevor faintly. "Ha! What?" "You've said it," said the policeman, "but you never know your luck, sir. It may be as how 13's your lucky number." Mr. Trevor lays emphasis on the fact that throughout he treated the constable with the courtesy due from a gentleman to the law. He merely said, "Constable, I am now going home. I do not like you very much. You are an alarmist, and I hope that when you go to sleep tonight your ears swell so that when you wake up in the morning you will be able to fly straight to heaven and never be seen or heard of again. You and your razors and your 13s. "Oh, they ain't mine, far from it," said the policeman, and even as he spoke a voice crashed upon the silence from the direction of Mount Street. The voice belonged to a tall figure in black and white, and on his head was a top hat that shone under the pallid moon like a monstrous black jewel. "That there," said the policeman, "is a noise." "He's singing," said Mr. Trevor. "I'll teach him singing," said the policeman. Sang the voice. "With an host of furious fancies, where I am commander, with a burning spear and a horse of air, to the wilderness I wander." "You will," said the policeman. "Oh, you will. By a night of ghosts and shadows, I have summoned them to tourney. The leagues beyond the wild world's end, methinks it is no journey." "Not to Vine Street it isn't," said the policeman. "Ho there," cried the approaching voice. "Who dares interrupt my song?" "Beau Maturin," said Mr. Trevor gladly. It's not you. Bravo, Beau Maturin. Sing, bless you, sing, for I am depressed." From Heaven's Gate to Hampstead Heath, young Bacchus and his crew came tumbling down, and over the town their bursting trumpets blew. "Fine big gent, your friend," said the policeman thoughtfully. And when they heard that happy word, the policemen leapt and ambled, the businessmen pranced, the maidens danced, the men and bowlers gambled. "Big," said Mr. Trevor. "Big? Let me tell you, constable, that the last time Mr. Maturin hit Jack Dempsey, Dempsey bounced back from the floor so quick that he knocked Mr. Maturin out on the rebound. Mr. Trevor said that Beau Maturin came on through the night like an avenger through the wilderness. So little did he reck of cruel moons and rude policemen. Said he, 'Good evening, Ralph. Good evening, constable. Lo, I am in wine.' 'You've said it,' said the policeman. 'Gently, my dear.' 'Or,' said Mr. Maturin cordially, 'I will dot you one, and look at it which way you like it is a far, far better thing to be in wine than in hospital. Now, are there any good murders going tonight?' 'Going,' said the constable. 'I'm here to see if there ain't any coming, but I've just been telling this gent about some recent crises. Corpses slit to ribbons just as you or me might slit up a veal and "'Don't say that again,' snapped Mr. Trevor. 'By heaven, what's that?' sighed Mr. Maturin, and following his intent eyes, they saw, a yard or so behind them on the pavement, something that glittered in the moonlight. Mr. Trevor says that, without a thought for his own safety, he instantly took a step towards the thing, but the policeman restrained him. It was Mr. Maturin who picked the thing up. The policeman whistled thoughtfully. "A razor, let's face it," whispered Beau Maturin. "And sharp," said the policeman, thoughtfully testing the glittering blade with the ball of his thumb. Mr. Trevor said that he was never in his life less conscious of any feeling of excitement. He merely pointed out that he could swear there had been no razor there when he had come round the corner, and that, while he had stood there, no one had passed behind him. "The chap that owns this razor," said the policeman, emphasizing each word with a gesture of the blade, "must have slunk behind you and me as we stood here talking, and dropped it, maybe not finding it sharp enough for its purpose. What do you think, Mr. Maturin?" But Mr. Maturin begged to be excused from thinking, protesting that men are in the hands of God, and God is in the hands of women, and so what the devil is there to think about? Mr. Trevor says that the motive behind his remark at that moment, which was to the effect that he simply must have a drink, was merely that he was thirsty. A clock struck 2. "After hours," said the policeman, and he seemed, Mr. Trevor thought, even to grin evilly. "What do they know of hours?" sighed Mr. Maturin. "Who only Cyros know. Come, Ralph, my love, she jilted me but the other night. Therefore I will swim in wine, and thrice will I call upon her name when I am drowning. Constable, good night to you." "Now I've warned you," the policeman called after them. "Don't go into any alleys or passages like Lansdowne Passage, else you'll be finding yourself slit up like veal and pies." Maybe it was only the treacherous light of the moon, but Mr. Trevor fancied as he looked back at the policeman where he stood thoughtfully fingering the shining blade, seemed to be grinning evilly at them. They walked in silence, their steps ringing sharp. This is part 2. I don't know how many more. I don't know how many more pages. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, this one, ooh. This one's kind of long. But I hope you guys enjoy it. I thought it was kind of bantery. It was kind of fun at the start. I'm enjoying it. This one is a little bit harder to read though, however, because there's a lot of like, when the constable especially, was saying he or ear, well, here, they would put like a little apostrophe. Sorry, apologize. It's my really, really creaky old chair. Yes. Whenever he said here, it was like a little apostrophe and ERE. So when you're reading like a paragraph and it's just full of these little apostrophes, it's very difficult to like, not stumble. But yes, okay. Chapter 2. I accidentally tore a little bit of the page. I will now proceed to throw myself out a window. These pages are really, really brittle. God damn. I should be wearing gloves for this, I think. Okay. They walked in silence, their steps ringing sharp on the bitter chill air. The night in the sky was pale at the white disdain of the moon. It was Mr. Maturin who spoke at last, saying, "There's too much talk of murder tonight. A man cannot go to bed on such crude talk. You know me, kid. Shall we go to the garden of my grandmother?" Huh? At that moment, a taxicab crawled across the moonlight, and the driver, a man in a Homburg hat of green plush, ooh, that's the same guy, did not attempt to hide his pleasure at being able to satisfy the gentle mist's request to take them to the garden of my grandmother. Mr. Trevor says that he has rarely chanced upon a more unsatisfactory taxicab than that driven by the man in the Homburg hat of green plush. By closing one's eyes, one might perhaps have created an illusion of movement by reason of certain internal shrieks and commotions, but when one saw the slow procession of shops by the windows and the lamp posts loitering by the curb, one was, as Beaumaturin pointed out, justified in believing that the hackney cab in question was not going fast enough to outstrip a retired Czechoslovakian admiral in an egg and spoon race. Nor were they altogether surprised when the taxicab died on them in Conduit Street. The man in the Homburg hat of green plush jumped out and tried to restart the engine. He failed. The gentleman within waited the issue in silence. The silence, says Mr. Trevor, grew terrible. But the taxicab moved not, and the man in the Homburg hat of green plush began, in his agitation, thumping the carburetor with his clenched fist. "No petrol," he pleaded. "No petrol," said Mr. Trevor to Mr. Maturin. "Let us go. Let us leave this man." "Here, my fare," said the fellow. "Your fare," said Mr. Maturin with contracted brows. "What do you mean, your fare?" "Bob on the meter," said the wretch. "My friend will pay," said Mr. Maturin, and stalked away. Mr. Trevor says that, while retaining throughout the course of that miserable night his undoubted flair for generosity, he could not but hold Beaumaturin's high-handed disavowal of his responsibilities against him. And he was hurrying after him up Conduit Street, turning over such phrases as might best point the occasion and make Mr. Maturin ashamed of himself, when that pretty gentleman swung around sharply and said, "Shh!" But Mr. Trevor was disinclined to shh, maintaining that Mr. Maturin owed him 9 pence. "Shh, you fool!" snapped Mr. Maturin, and Mr. Trevor has not obliged him for long before he discerned in the quietness of Conduit Street a small discordant noise. Or rather, says Mr. Trevor, a series of small discordant noises. "She's crying, let's face it," whispered Mr. Maturin. "She? Who?" "Shh!" snapped Mr. Maturin. They were at the point in Conduit Street where a turn to the right will bring one to a fat little street which looks blind but isn't. Insomuch as close by the entrance to the Alpine Club galleries there is a narrow passage or alley leading into Savile Row. Mr. Trevor says that the repugnance with which he at that moment looked towards the darkness of the passage or alley had less than nothing to do with the bloodthirsty policeman's last words, but was due merely to an antipathy he had entertained towards all passages or alleys ever since George Tarleon had seen a ghost in one. Mr. Maturin and he stood for some minutes in the full light of the moon, while, as though from the very heart of the opposite darkness, the lacerating tremors of weeping echoed about their ears. "I can't bear it," said Beaumaturin. "Come along." And he advanced towards the darkness. But Mr. Trevor said he would not, pleading foot trouble. "Come," said Beaumaturin, but Mr. Trevor said, Tomorrow, yes, but not tonight. Then did Beaumaturin advance alone into the darkness towards the passage or alley, and with one pounce the darkness stole his top hat from the moon. Beaumaturin was invisible. The noise of weeping abated. "Oi!" called Mr. Trevor. "Come back, you fool!" "Shh!" whispered the voice of Mr. Maturin. Mr. Trevor said bitterly, "You're swanking, that's all." "It's a girl," whispered the voice of Mr. Maturin, whereupon Mr. Trevor, who yielded to no man in the chivalry of his address towards women, at once advanced, caught up Mr. Maturin, and without a thought for his own safety, was about to pass ahead of him, when Beaumaturin had the bad taste to whisper, "Wear razors," and thus again held the lead. She who wept, now almost inaudibly, was a dark shape just within the passage. Her face, says Mr. Trevor, was not visible, yet her shadow had not those rather surprising contours which one generally associates with women who weep in the night. "Madame," began Mr. Maturin. "Oh," sobbed the gentle voice, "he is insulting me." Mr. Trevor laid some emphasis on the fact that throughout the course of that miserable night, his manners were a pattern of courtliness. Thinking, however, that a young lady in a situation of lachrymose would react more favorably to a fatherly tone, he said, "My child, we hope—" "Ah," sobbed the gentle voice, "please go away, please. I am not that sort." "Come, come," said Mr. Maturin. "It is us whom you insult with a suspicion so disagreeable. My friend and I are not of the sort to commit ourselves to so low a process as that which is called, I believe, picking up." "We have, as a matter of fact, friends of our own," said Mr. Trevor haughtily. "Speaking generally," said Mr. Maturin, "women like us. Time over again I have had to sacrifice my friendship with a man in order to retain his wife's respect." "Ah, you are a man of honor," sobbed the young lady. "We are two men of honor," said Mr. Trevor. "And far," said Mr. Maturin warmly, "from intending you any mischief. We merely thought on hearing you weeping—" "You heard me, sir?" "From Conduit Street," said Mr. Trevor severely, whereupon Mr. Maturin lifted up his voice and sang, from Conduit Street, the street of ties and tailors. From Conduit Street, a shocking street for trousers." "Oh," sobbed the young lady, "is this chivalry?" "Trousers," said Mr. Maturin, "are closely connected with chivalry, in so much as he who commits chivalry without them is to be considered a rude fellow." "But, child," Mr. Maturin protested sincerely, "we addressed you only in the hope that we might be of some service in the extremity of your grief. I assure you that you can trust us, for since we are no longer soldiers, rape and crime have ceased to attract us. However, you do not need us. We were wrong. We will go." "It was I who was wrong," came the low voice, and Mr. Trevor said that only then did the young lady raise her face, when it was instantly as though the beauty of that small face sent the surrounding darkness scurrying away. Not, however, that Mr. Trevor was impressed altogether in the young lady's favor. Her eyes, which were large, dark, and charming, appeared to rest on handsome Beaumaturin with an intentness which Mr. Trevor could only describe as bold. Well, a disregard of his own presence might have hurt him had he, says Mr. Trevor, cared 2 pints for that kind of thing. "You see, I have not eaten today," the young lady told Beaumaturin, who cried, "Then we can help you." "Ah, how do I know? Please." The young lady began weeping again, and Mr. Trevor said that he had not hardened his heart. He could not say what he might not have done. "Please, sirs, I simply do not know what to do. I am so unhappy, so alone. Oh, but you cannot imagine. You are a gentleman?" "Speaking for my friend," said Mr. Maturin warmly, "he has been asked to resign from Buck's Club only after repeated bankruptcies." "Mr. Maturin," said Mr. Trevor, "hasn't his time been cashiered from no less a regiment than the Coldstream Guards?" The young lady did not, however, favor Mr. Trevor with so much as a glance, never once taking her beautiful eyes from the handsome face of Beaumaturin. Indeed, throughout the course of that miserable night, she admirably controlled any interest in Mr. Trevor might have aroused in her, which Mr. Trevor can only account for by the supposition that she must have been warned against him. Beaumaturin, meanwhile, had taken the young lady's arm, a familiarity with which Mr. Trevor cannot too strongly dissociate with himself, and was saying, "Child, you may come with us, if not with honor, at least with safety, and while you refresh yourself with food and drink, you can tell us, if you please, the tale of your troubles. Can't she, Ralph?" "I don't see," said Mr. Trevor, "what good we can do." "Your friend," said the young lady sadly to Beaumaturin, does not like me. Perhaps he had better leave me alone to my misery." "My friend," said Mr. Beaumaturin, guiding her steps down the fat little street towards Conduit Street, "likes you only too well, but is restraining himself for fear of your displeasure. Moreover, he cannot quickly adapt himself to the company of ingenious young ladies, for he goes a good deal into society, where somewhat cruder methods obtain." "But oh, where are you taking me to?" suddenly cried the young lady. "To the garden of my grandmother," said Mr. Trevor bitterly, and presently they found a taxicab on Regent Street which quickly delivered them at the place in Leicester Square, Leicester? Yes. British towns, I swear. Mr. Trevor cannot help priding himself on the agility with which he leapt out of the taxicab, saying to the driver, "My friend will pay." But Mr. Maturin, engrossed in paying those little attentions to the young lady which really attractive men, says Mr. Trevor, can afford to neglect, told the driver to wait, and when the driver said he did not want to wait, to go and boil his head. Okay. Mr. Trevor describes the garden of my grandmother in some detail, but that would be of interest only to the specialist. The place was lately raided and is now closed, and remained open so long as it did only with the help of such devices as commended themselves to those aliens who know the laws of the land only to circumvent them. For some time, indeed, the police did not know of its existence as a nightclub, for the entrance to the place was through two mean-looking doors and several yards apart, on one of which was boldly inscribed the word "gentlemen," and on the other "ladies." Within, all was gaiety and chic. From the respectable nightclubs and restaurants, all closed by this hour, would come the jeunesse of England, and an appetizing smell of kippers brought new life to the jaded senses of young ladies, while young gentlemen cleverly contrived to give the appearance of drinking ginger ale by taking their champagne through straws. Mr. Trevor says, however, that there was not the smallest chance of the place being raided in the night in question, for among the company was a prince of the blood, and it is an unwritten law in the Metropolitan Police Force that no nightclub shall be raided while a prince of the blood is pulling a party therein. The young lady and her two gentlemen were presently refreshing themselves at a table in a secluded corner, and when at last the only wine was left before them, Mr. Maturin assumed his courteous manner to beg the young lady to tell her tale. And, in detail, if she thought its relation would relieve her at all, she thought with all the pensive beauty of her dark eyes that it would, and immediately began on the following tale. The tale of the Bulgarian girl. "I am," she said, 23 years old, and although I once spent 2 years in England at a boarding school in Croydon, my life hitherto has been lived entirely in Bulgaria. My father was a Bulgar of the name of Samson Samsonovich Samsonov, my mother an Englishwoman of the Lancashire branch of the race of Jones, and for her tragic death in a railway accident just over a year ago I shall grieve all my life, which I cannot help praying may be a short one, for I weary of the insensate cruelties that every new day opens out for me. I must tell you that my mother was an unusual woman, of rigid principles, lofty ideals, and a profound feeling for the grace and dignity of the English tongue, in which, in spite of my father's opposition, for the Samsonovs are a bitter, proud race, she made me proficient at an early age. Never had this admirable woman a thought in her life that was not directed towards furthering her husband's welfare and to obtaining the happiness of her only child, and I am convinced that my father had not met his cruel death 2 months ago had she been spared to counsel him. My father came of an ancient Macedonian house. For hundreds of years, a bearer of the name of Samson Samsonovich Samsonov had trod the stark hillsides of the Balkans and raided the sweet, rich valleys about Philippopolis. As brigands, the Samsonovs had never a rival, a komitadjis. In war or peace, their name was a name of heroism and of terror, while as assassins, for the domestic economy of Bulgaria has ever demanded the occasional services of a hawk's eye and a ruthless hand, a Samsonov has been honorably associated with some of the most memorable coups in Balkan history. I am well aware of the pride of family has exercised a base dominion over the minds of many good men and women, yet I do not hesitate to confess that it was with most unbearable regret that I look upon the fact that I, a wretched girl, am the last and only remnant of our once proud house. Such a man it was with whom my mother, while accompanying her father, a civil engineer, through Bulgaria, married. Nor did it need anything less than the ardor of her love and the strength of her character to seduce a Samson Samsonovich from the door dominion of the hills to the conventional life of the valleys. I loved my father, but could not be blind to the grave flaws in his character. A tall, hairy man with a beard such as he would have appalled your English description of beaver. He was subject to ungovernable tempers and occasionally to regrettable lapses that the moral code, which is such an attractive feature of English domestic life. Ah, you who live in the content of plenty of so civilized a land, how can you even imagine the horrors of lawlessness that obtain among primitive peoples? Had not that good woman, my mother, always willed him to loving kindness, Samsonov had more than once spilled the blood of his dearest friends in the heat of some petty tavern brawl. We lived in a farmhouse in what is surely the loveliest valley in the world, that which is called the Valley of the Roses, and whence is given to the world that exquisite essence known as attar of roses. Our little household in the valley was a happy and an one. More and more infrequent became my father's demoniac tempers, but for his intolerance of fools and cravens, who had taken the last of those Samsonovs to be a part of the life of the valley men, of whose industry the cultivation of roses he rapidly became a master. Thus we come to the time which I now think of as 2 months before my mother's death. My father had attained to a certain degree of wealth, and was never enticing my mother with dreams of a prolonged visit to her beloved birthplace, Southport, which is, I believe, a pretty town on the seaboard of Lancashire, and which I look forward with delight to visiting. While enticing her, however, with such visions, he did not hesitate to warn her that she must wait on the issue of his fanciful hobby, which daily grew on him, for the last of the Samsonovs had become an inventor of flowers. You may well look bewildered, but had you known my father, you would in some measure have understood how a man of an extreme audacity of temperament might be driven into any fanciful pursuit that might lead to a spice of life of an intolerable gentility. Nor was that pursuit so fanciful as might at first appear to those conventionally studious minds. My father had a profound knowledge of the anatomy of flowers, and was in the habit of saying that he could not but think that the mind of man had hitherto neglected the invention and cultivation of the most agreeable variations. In fine, the tempestuous but simple mind of Samsonovitch Samsonov had been captivated by the possibility of growing green carnations. My mother and I were, naturally enough, not at all averse from his practicing so gentle a hobby as the invention and cultivation of improbable flowers, and it was long before we ever dreamt of evil consequences that might attend so inoffensive an ambition. But my poor mother was soon to be rid of the anxieties of this life. One day, she and I were sitting in the garden discussing the English fashion journals, when, silently as a cloud, my father came out of the house and looked towards us in the half-frowning, half-smiling way of his best mood. Tall and patriarchal, he came towards us, and in his hand we saw a flower with a long, slender stem, and we stared at it as though we could not believe our eyes, for it was a green carnation. "You have painted it!" we cried, my mother and I, for his success had seemed to us as remote as the stars. "I have made it," said my father, and he smiled into his beard, which was ever his one confidential friend. "Women, I have made it in my laboratory, and as I have made this, I can make thousands, millions, and thousands of millions." He waved a closely covered piece of paper towards me. "My daughter," he said, "here is your dower, your heritage. I am too old to burden myself with the cares of great riches, but by the help of this paper, you, my beloved child, will become an heiress who may condescend to an emperor or an American." Okay. We will not lose a minute before going to England, the land of honest men, to put the matter of patent in train. For on this paper is written the formula by which green carnations, as well as all previously known varieties of carnations, can be made instead of grown. Made, I say, instead of grown. Women, do you understand what it is that I have achieved? I have stolen something of the secret of the sun. "Samson, boast not," cried my mother. But he laughed at her and fondled me, while I stared in great wonder at the slip of paper and that fluttered in his hand, and dreamed the fair dreams of wealth and happiness in a civilized country. Ah, me, the ill-fated excellence of dreams, for here I am, in the most civilized country in the world, a pauper, and more wretched than a pauper. Our preparations for removal to England were not far advanced before that happened which brought the first cruel turn to our fortunes. On an evil day, my mother set out to Vienna to buy some trivial thing, but I cannot speak of that, how she was returned to us a mangled corpse, her dear features mutilated beyond recognition by the fury of their railway accident. My father took his sudden loss strangely. It was as though he was deprived at one blow of all the balance, the restraint with which so many years of my mother's influence had softened the dangerous temper of the Samsonov. and the brooding silence he put upon his surroundings clamoured with black thoughts. Worst of all, he began to frequent the taverns in the valley, wherein he seemed to find solace in goading to fury the craven-hearted lowlanders among whom he had lived in peace with for so long. The Samsonov, in short, seemed rapidly to be reverting to type, and I, his daughter, must stand by and do nothing, for my influence over him was never but of the pettiest sort. The weeks passed, and our preparations for departure to England proceeded at the soberest pace. In England we were going to stay with my mother's brother, a saintly man of some little property who lived a retired life in London, and whose heir I would in due course be, since he was himself without wife or children. My father, never notable for the agreeable qualities of direction and reticence, soon spread about the report of his discovery of the green carnation. He could not resist boasting of it in his cups, of the formula which he could always make them, of the fortune he must inevitably make. No, nor did he hesitate to taunt the men of the valley, they who came of generations of flower growers, with his own success in an occupation which, he said, he had never undertaken but at a woman's persuasion, since it would be regarded as manly only by those who would describe as manly the painted face of a Circassian eunuch? Thus he would taunt them, laughing me to scorn when I ventured to point out that even worms will turn and crave and conspire. Woe and woe to the dour and high-handed in a world of polity, for their fate shall surely find them out. One day, having been to the village to procure some yeast for the making of a yaourt, which is the same Bulgarian sour milk so strongly recommended to Anglo-Saxon digestions, I was startled as I walked up the path to the door by the bruit of loud, rough voices. Only too soon was my fear turned to horror. One of the voices was my father's, arrogant and harsh as his only his could be, with a sneer like a snake running through it. The other I could not recognize, but could hear only too well that it had not the soft accents of the men of the valley. And when, afraid to enter, I peered in through the window, I saw my father in violent altercation with a man his equal in stature and demeanor, another bearded giant as fair as my father was dark, and with the livid eyes of a wolf. What was my horror on recognizing him as Michaelis the Komitadji, the notorious and brutal Michaelis of the hills. Michaelis and Samsonovich Samsonovs had always been the equal kings of the banditti, and in many a fight between Christian and Turk, the equal champions of the cross against the crescent. And now, as I could hear through this window, the last of the Michaelis was asking the last of the Samsonovs some of his great wealth, that he might arm and munition his troop to the latest mode. My father threw back his head and laughed. But his laugh had cost him dear. Had I not screamed at warning, for the Michaelis with the wolfish eyes had raised a broad knife. My father leapt to one side, taking up the first thing that came to hand, a heavy bottle of mastic, crashed it down like an axe on the fair giant's head. And then, without so much as a glance at the unconscious man, and massive though the Michaelis was, slung him over his shoulder, strode out of the house and garden, and flung him into the middle of the roadway, where he lay for long, moaning savagely with the pain of his broken head. I had gone to the aid of the wretch, but my father would not let me, saying that no Michaelis ever yet died of a slap on the crown, and that a little bloodletting would clear the man's mind of his boyish fancies. Ah, if it had. It was at a late hour of the very next night, for since my mother's death, my father would loiter in the taverns until all hours, that his hoarse voice roused me from my sleep. And on descending, I found him raging about the kitchen like a wounded tiger, his clothes in disorder and showing grim dark stains that, as they clung to him, foully wetted my hands. I prayed him, in an access of terror, to tell me he was not hurt, for what other protection than him had I in that murderous land? I am not hurt, child, he growled impatiently, but I had been driven to hurt some so that they can never again feel pain. They had ambushed him, the cowards, as he came home through the wood, as though 100 of those maggots of the valley could slay a Samsonovich Samsonov. My father had caught the last of them by the throat, and the trembling coward had saved himself by confessing the plot. It appeared that it was they who had persuaded the Michaelis to visit us the day before, inflaming his fancy with tales of the discovery of this carnation and of the great riches the Samsonov had concealed about the house. And if the Michaelis had come to our house not for a part of my father's wealth, but for all he could find, as also for the secret of the carnation, which he might sell at a great price to some Jew in Sofia, he had come to kill my father. And I, like a fool, cried my father, only broke the skin of his wolfish head. Girl, we must be off at once. I have not lived in dwelling peace all these years to die like a rat.
And now that these weak idiots have failed to kill me, Michaelis and his troop will surround the house, and who shall escape the wolves of the hills? Now linger not for your clothes and fineries. Grigory Eshikovich has horses for us at the edge of the wood, and we can make Philippopolis by the morning. Here is all our money and notes. Take them, so that you will be provided for should these scum get me. And the formula? Take care of the formula, child, for that is your fortune. For that is your fortune. Should I have to stay behind, your mother's brother in England is a good man and will probably not rob you of more than half the profits of it. And so we came to leave our beloved home, stealing like thieves through the darkness of a moonless night. How shall I ever forget these desperate moments? Our farm lay far from any other habitation, and a long sloping lane joined our pastures to the extensive Karloff Wood. Karloff Wood! A wood always evoked by Bulgarian poets of past centuries as the home of vampires and the kennel of the hounds of hell. There at its borders, Grigory Eshikovich, a homely man devoted to our interests, awaited us with 2 horses, and although I could not see his face in the darkness, I could imagine by the tremor of his never very assured voice how pallid, indeed green, it must have been. For poor Grigory Eshikovich suffered from some internal affection, which had the effect of establishing his complexion very uncertainly. "Have you seen anyone in the wood?" my father asked him. "No, but I have heard noises." Grigory Eshikovich trembled. "Bah!" growled my father. "That was the chattering of your own miserable teeth." I wonder what had happened to poor Grigory Eshikovich, whether he survived that hideous night. We left him there, a trembling figure on the borders of the wood, while we put our horses into the heart of that darkness, and I tried to find solace in our desperate situation by looking forward to the safety and comfort of our approaching life in England. Little I knew that I was to suffer such agonies of fear in this huge city that I would wish myself back in the land of wolves. My dreams were shattered by a low growl from my father, and we pulled up our horses, listening intently. By this time we were about halfway through the wood, and had we not known the place by heart, we had long since lost our way, for the curtain of leaves between us and the faint light of the stars made the place so black that we could not even see the faintest glimmer of each other. At last my father whispered that it was all right, and we were in the act of spurring our tired horses for the last dash through the wood, when torches flamed on all sides, and we stood as in the tortured light of a crypt in moonlight. "Samson Samsonovich," cried a hoarse voice, and like a stab in my heart, I knew it for the voice of the Michaelis. "We hope your sins are not too heavy, for your time has come." It ill becomes a girl to boast of her parent, but shall I neglect to mention the stern fortitude, the patriarchal resignation, the monumental bravery of my father, how he sat his horse still as a rock in a tempest, and only his lips moved in a gentle whisper to me. "Child, save yourself," said he, and that was his farewell. "I command you to go, to save yourself and my secret from these hounds. Maybe I too will get through. God is as good to us as we deserve. Head right through them. Their aim between you and me will be so unsure that we might both escape. Go, and God go with you." Can you ask me to remember the details of the awful moment? The darkness, the flaming torches, the hoarse cries of bandits as they rode in on us, my father's great courage. All these combined to produce in me a state for which the word terror seems altogether too homely. Perhaps I should not have left my father. Perhaps I should have died with him. I did not know what I was doing. Blindly as in a nightmare, I spurred my horse midway between 2 moving torches. The horse, startled already, flew madly as the wind. Cries, curses, shots seemed to sweep about me, envelop me, but terror lent wings to my horse, and the shots and shouts faded behind me as phantoms might fade in a furious wind. Last of all came a fearful fusillade of shots, then a silence broken only by the harsh rustle of the bracken under my horse, which with the livid intelligence of fear did not stop before we reached Philippopolis in the dawn. I was never to see my father again. Until noon of the next day I sat anxiously in the only decent inn of the ancient town, praying that some act of providence had come to his aid and that he might be at any moment appear, when, from a loquacious person who did not know my name, I heard that the last of the Samsonovs had that morning been found in Karloff Wood, nailed to a tree trunk with 18 bullet wounds in his body. I will spare you my reflections on the pass in which I then found myself. No young girl was ever so completely alone as she sat the day through in the parlor of the Bulgarian inn, trying to summon the energy with which to arrange for her long journey on the Orient Express to England. Arrived in London, I at once set out to my uncle's house in Golgotha Road, Golders Green. I was a little surprised that he had not met me at the station, for I had warned him of my arrival by telegram, but knowing he was a gentleman of particular though agreeable habits, it was with a sufficiently good heart that I rang the bell of his tall, gloomy house, which stood at the end of a genteel street of exactly similar houses. Allow me, if you please, to hurry over the relation of my further misfortunes. My uncle had died of a clot of blood on the heart of a week before my arrival. His property he had, of course, left to me, and I could instantly take possession of his house in Golgotha Road. I was utterly alone. That was 4 weeks ago, though entirely without friends or acquaintance, for my uncle's lawyer, Mr. Tarbold, was a man who bore his own lack of easy conversation and human sympathy with a resigned fortitude worthy of more wretched sorrows. I passed the first 2 weeks pleasantly enough in arranging the house to my taste, and engaging a housekeeper and training her to my ways, and wondering how I must proceed as regards the patenting and exploring of the carnation, the formula for which I kept locked in a secret drawer of my toilet table. At the end of 3 weeks, 1 week to go, my housekeeper gave me notice of her instant departure, saying that no consideration would persuade her to spend another night in the house. She was, it seemed, psychic, and the atmosphere of the house, which was certainly oppressive, weighed heavily on her mind. She had heard noises in the night, she affirmed, and also spoke indignantly of an unpleasant smell in the basement of the house, a musty smell which she for one made no bones of recognizing as of a graveyard consistency. And if she did not know a graveyard smell, she asked, from one of decent origins, who did, for she had buried 3 husbands. Ooh. Of course, I laughed at her tremors, for I am not naturally of a nervous temper, and when she insisted on leaving that very day, I was not at all disturbed. Nor did I instantly make inquiries for another woman, for I could very well manage by myself, and the work of the house, I thought, must help to fill in the awful spaces made by the utter lack of companionship. As to any nervousness at being left entirely alone in the house, surrounded as it was by the amenities of Golders Green, I never gave a thought to it, for I had been inured to a reasonable solitude all my life. And putting up a notice of apartments to let in one of the ground floor windows, I set about the business of the house in something of a spirit of adventure natural, if I may say so, to one of my years. That, as I have said, was 1 week ago, and the very next day, but after my housekeeper had left me, was to see my hardly one piece shattered at one blow. I do not know if you gentlemen are aware of the mode of life that obtains in Golders Green, but I must tell you that the natives of that quarter do not discourage the activities of barrel organs, a somewhat surprising exercise of restraint to one who has been accustomed to the dolorous and beautiful songs of the Balkan Tziganes. It is true, however, that these barrel organs are played mostly by foreigners, and I have been given to understand the foreigners are one of the most sacred institutions of this great country. The very next morning after my housekeeper had left me, I was distracted from my work by a particularly disagreeable combination of sounds, which, I had no doubt, could come only from a barrel organ not of the first order and the untrained voice of its owner. A little amused, I looked out the window, and with a heart how still leapt back into the room, for the face of the organ grinder was the face of the Michaelis. I spent an hour of agony in wondering if he had seen me, for how could I doubt but that he had followed me to England in quest of the formula of the carnation? At last, however, I decided that he could not have seen me, and it was in some degree calmed by the decreasing noise of the barrel organ as it inflicted itself on more distant streets. London, I told myself, was a very large city. It was not possible that the Michaelis could have the faintest idea in what part of it I lodged, and that it could only have been by the most unfortunate combination of the chances that he had brought his wretched organ into Golgotha Road. Nevertheless, I took the precaution to withdraw the notice of apartments to let from the window, lest yet another unfortunate combination of chances should lead him or his minions to search for lodging in my house. The next day passed quietly enough. I went out shopping with a veil over my face for reasons you can well understand, and little did I dream that the approaching terror was to come from a quarter which would only be known to the Michaelis when he was dead. That evening in my bedroom, in a curious moment of forgetfulness, I chanced to pull the bell rope. I wanted some hot water, had for the moment forgotten that the silly woman had left me, and only remembered it with a smile when, far down in the basement, I heard the thin clatter of the bell. The bathroom was some way down the passage, and I had reached the door, empty jug in hand, when I was arrested by the sound of approaching steps. They were very faint. They seemed to be coming up from the basement, as though in answer to the bell. I pressed my hands to my forehead in a frantic attempt to collect my wits, and I have no hesitation in saying that for those few moments I was near insane. The accumulation of terrors in my recent life had, I thought, unhinged my mind, and I must that day have engaged a servant and forgotten it. Meantime, the steps ascended, slowly, steadily, exactly as an elderly servant might ascend in answer to the bell. And as they ascended, I was driven, I cannot tell you how, somehow past fear. Maybe it was the blood of the Samsonoffs at last raging in me. I was not afraid, and without locking the door, I withdrew to a far corner of the room, awaiting the moment when the steps must reach the door. I must not forget to add that the empty jug was still in my hand. Steadily, but with a shuffling as of carpet slippers, the steps came up the passage. Slowly the door was opened, and there, a gaunt, gray-haired woman in musty black stood there, eyeing me with strange contempt. Fear returned, enveloped me, shook me, and I sobbed, I screamed. The woman did not move. Oh my god, I thought they turned those off! Hi! Thank you, Davina. Thank you. Gosh darn it, I thought I turned it off. It's alright, okay. The woman did not move, did not speak, but stood there, gaunt and grey and dry, eyeing me with a strange contempt. And on her lined face there was an undreamt of expression of evil. Yet I recognized her. I must tell you that my mother had often, in telling me of her brother, spoken of his confidential housekeeper. My mother was a plain-spoken woman, and I had gathered from her that the woman had exercised some vulgar art to enthrall my poor uncle and had dominated him to his hurt in all things. At the news of this woman's death, just before my mother's tragic end, she had been unable to resist an expression of relief, and I, on having taken possession of the house a few weeks before, had examined with great interest, as girls will, the various photographs of her that stood about the rooms. It was from these that I recognized the woman who stood in the doorway. But she was dead! Surely she had died more than a year ago. Yet there she now stood, eyeing me with that strange contempt, with such contempt indeed that I, reacting from fear to anger, sternly demanded of her what she did there and what she wanted. She was silent. That was perhaps the most awful moment of all. But no, there was worse to come. For sobbing with terror, I hurled the empty jug at her vile face with a precision of aim which now astonishes me. But she did not waver so much as the fraction of an inch as the jug came straight at her, and, passing through her head, smashed into pieces against the wall of the passage outside. I must have swooned where I stood, for when I was again conscious of my surroundings, she was gone. I was alone, but far down in the house I could hear the shuffling steps, retreating, descending to the foul shades whence she had come. Now I am one who cannot bear any imposition, and unable, despite the witness of my own eyes, to believe in the psychic character of the intruder. I ran out of the room and in hot pursuit down the stairs. The gaunt woman must have descended with a swiftness surprising in one of her years, for I could only see her shadow far below, on the last flight of stairs that would take her to the basement, into that lower darkness. I must confess I had not the courage to follow her, and still less... Sorry, I thought my dad came into my room, but it was just a crack, sorry. And still less so when, on peering down the pitch-dark stairs into the kitchen, I was assailed by that musty smell which my housekeeper had spoken of with such indignant conviction as of a graveyard consistency. I locked the door of my room and slept. I need scarcely say, but ill that night. However, in the cheerful light of the following morning, I was inclined, as who would not, to poo-poo... To poo-poo? To poo-poo? The incredible events of the previous night. And again, pulled the bell rope just to see the event, if any. Okay, it poo-poo, but it's spelled like Winnie the Pooh. P-O-O-H? Poo-poo? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Okay, well, I can't wait to poo-poo. Whatever the hell that means. This is crazy. Okay. And again pulled the bell rope, just to see the event, if any. There was, and unable to await the ascent of the shuffling steps, I crammed on a hat and ran down the stairs. The woman was coming upstairs, steadily, inevitably. As she heard me descending, she stopped and looked up, and I cannot describe the effect that the diabolical wickedness of her face had on me in the clear daylight. I stopped, was rooted there, could not move. To get to the front door, I must pass the foul thing, and that I could not summon the courage to do. and then she raised an arm as though to show me something, and I saw the blade of a razor shining in her hand. You may well shudder, gentlemen. When it came to, it was to find myself lying at the foot of the stairs, whither I must have fallen, and the foul thing gone. Why she did not kill me, I do not know. God will pardon me for saying that maybe it had been better if she had. For what miseries are not still in store for me? Trembling and weak, I reached the door and impelled myself into the clear air of morning. Nor could the fact that I had forgotten my fail, and the consequent fear of the Michaelis, persuade me to re-enter that house until I had regained some degree of calmness. All day long I wandered about, knowing that neither what to do nor where to go. I am not without some worldly sense, and I knew that with little assistance the police could get me in such a dilemma, even had they believed me. While as for the lawyer, Mr. Tarbold, how could I face a man of so little sympathy in ordinary things with such an extraordinary tale? Towards 10 o'clock that night, I determined to return and risk another night in that house. I was desperate with weariness and hunger. I could not buy food nor lodging for the night, for in my flight I had forgotten my purse. While I argued to myself that if, after all, she had intended to murder me, she could without any difficulty have done so that morning, while I lay unconscious on the stairs. My bravery, however, did not help me to ascend the stairs to my bedroom with any resolution. I stole upstairs myself verily like a phantom, but hearing no sound in the house, I plucked up the courage to switch on the light on my bedroom landing. My bedroom door stood open, but I could not remember whether or not I had left it so that morning. It was probable in my hasty descent. I tiptoed to it and peered in, and I take the liberty to wonder whether any man, was he never such a lion heart, had been less disturbed than I at the sight which the light of the moon revealed to my eyes. The Michaelis lay full length on the floor, his great fair beard darkened with his blood, which came, I saw, from a great gash behind his ear. Across him, with her back to me, straddled the gaunt foul thing, as silent as the grave. Yet even my terror could not overcome my curiosity as to her actions, for she kept on lowering and raising her left hand to and from the Michaelis beard, while with her right, in which shone the bloody razor, she sawed the air from side to side. I could not realize what that vile shape was doing. I could and could not admit the realization. For with her left hand she was plucking out one by one the long hairs of the Michaelis' beard, while with the razor in her right she was slicing them to the floor. I must have gasped, made some noise, for she heard me, and turning on me and brandishing the dripping razor, she snarled like an animal and leapt towards me. But I am young and quick, and managed just in time to reach the street door and slam it against her in rage pursuit. That was last night. Since then, gentlemen, I have wandered about the streets of London, resting a little among the poor people in the parks. I've had no food, for what money I have is in that house, together with a formula for the green carnation. But nothing, nor death by exposure, nor death by starvation, would induce me to return to the house in Golders Green while it is haunted by that foul presence. Is she a homicidal lunatic or a phantom from hell? I do not know. I am too tired to care. I have told you two gentlemen my story because you seem kind and capable, and I can only pray that I have not worried you overmuch. But I do beg you to believe that nothing is farther from my mind than to ask, and indeed nothing would induce me to accept anything from you but the generous sympathy of your understanding and the advice of your chivalrous intelligence. My tale is finished, gentlemen, and, alas, am not I. Mr. Trevor is somewhat confused in his relation of the course of events immediately subsequent to Miss Samsonoff's narrative. During its course he had time, he says, to study the young lady's beauty, which, though of a very superior order, was a little too innocent and insipid for his taste. His judgment, however, cannot be entirely fair, for such was the direction of the young lady's eyes that Mr. Trevor could judge her by her features only. As to the story itself, Mr. Trevor says that, while yielding to no one in his liking for a good story, he could not see his way to considering Miss Samsonoff's notable either for interest, entertainment, or that human note of stark realism which makes for conviction. And while in the ordinary way a murderer was to him like a magnet, he could not rouse himself to feel irresistibly attracted towards the ghoul of Golders Green. It was therefore with surprise not unmixed with pain that he heard Mr. Maturin saying, "Ralph, we are in luck." "To what?" Mr. Trevor said. Mr. Trevor could not entirely cleanse his voice from the impurity of sarcasm. "To what do you refer?" But it was not without some compunction that he heard the young lady sigh miserably to Beau Maturin. I am afraid I have worried your friend. Forgive me. My friend, said Boomaturin gently, is an ass. In point of fact, Miss Samsonoff, far from worrying us, you have put us under a great obligation. Ah, you are kind, the young lady was moved to sob. On the contrary, Mr. Maturin warmly protested. I am selfish. I gather you have not been reading the newspapers lately. Had you done so, you would have read of a murderer who has recently been loose in London, and has so far evaded not only capture, but even identification. So far as the public know through the newspapers, this criminal has been responsible for only 2 to 3 murders. But this very night, my friend and I have had private information to the effect that within the last few weeks, 12 mutilated corpses have been found in various parts of London, to which we must now, no doubt, add a 13th, the remains of your late enemy, Mr. Michaelis. But where your information, said Mr. Maturin gallantly, is especially valuable is that the police do not dream that the criminal is of your sex. To my friend and me, it is the original point that invests the pursuit. Pursuit? Mr. Trevor could not help starting. With, said Mr. Maturin coldly, an added charm. And now with your permission, Miss Samsonoff, we will not only return to you your formula as to the financial worth of which I cannot entirely share your late parents' optimism, but also, Mr. Trevor said with restraint, we will first of all call at Vine Street and borrow a few policemen. Oh yes, the young lady said eagerly. We will be sure to need some policemen. Please get some policemen. They will listen to you. I do not find an audience so difficult to find as all that, said Mr. Maturin coldly. The London police, Miss Samsonoff, are delightful but rather on the dull side. They are much given to standing in the middle of crowded roads and dreaming, and even in your short stay in London you must have observed what a serious, nay, intolerable obstruction they are to the traffic. No, my friend, and I will get this murderer ourselves. Come, Miss Samsonoff. But I dare not come with you, cried the young lady. I simply dare not approach that house again. May I not await your return here? The attacks of 10 murderers, said Mr. Maturin indignantly, cannot disfigure a person more violently than being left alone in a nightclub will disfigure your reputation. Bulgarians may be violent, Miss Samsonoff, but lounge lizards are low dogs. Mr. Trevor says that he was so plunged in thought that he did not arise from the table with his usual agility, and the first notice that he had that Mr. Maturin had risen and was nearly at the door was on hearing him wave aside a pursuing waiter with the damnable words, "My friend will pay." Without, the taxi cab was still waiting. Its driver, says Mr. Trevor, was one of those stout men of little speech and impatient demeanor, on which at this moment was plainly written the fact that he had been disagreeably affected by waiting in the cold for nearly 2 hours, and in Mr. Maturin sternly giving him a Golders Green direction, he just looked at our 2 gentlemen and appeared to struggle with an impediment in his throat. Golgotha Road was, as the young lady had described it, a genteel street of tall, gloomy houses. Mr. Trevor says that he cannot remember when he liked the look of a street less. The taxicab had not penetrated farther in when Miss Samsonoff timidly begged Mr. Maturin to stop its farther progress, pointing out that she could not bear to wait immediately opposite the house, and would, indeed, have preferred to await her brave cavaliers in an altogether different part of London. Mr. Maturin, however, soothed her fears, and, gay as a schoolboy, took the key of the house from her reluctant fingers, and was jumping from the cab when Miss Samsonoff cried, "But surely you have weapons!" Mr. Trevor says that, while yielding to no one and deploring the use of weapons in daily life, in this particular instance the young lady's words struck him as full of a practical grasp of the situation. "Of course," said Mr. Trevor nonchalantly. "We must have weapons. How stupid of us to have forgotten. I will go back to my flat and get some. I won't be gone a moment." "That's right," Mr. Maturin agreed, "because you won't be gone at all. My dear Miss Samsonoff, my friend and I do not need weapons. We put our trust in God and St. George. Come along, Ralph. Miss Samsonoff, we will be back in a few moments." "And what do I do?" asked the taxi driver. "Nothing," cried Mr. Maturin gaily. "Nothing at all. Aren't you lucky?" The house which the young lady had pointed out to them had an air of even gloomier gentility than the others, and Mr. Trevor said he cannot remember when he liked the look of a house less, particularly when the ancient brown door gave to Boomaturin's hand before he had put the key into the lock. Mr. Trevor could not resist a natural exclamation of surprise. Mr. Maturin begged him not to shout. Mr. Trevor said that he was not shouting at all, and without a thought for his own safety, was rushing headlong into the house to meet the terror single-handed when he thought that his shoelace was untied. He found Boomaturin in what, he supposed, would be called a hall, when it was not a pit of darkness. A stealthily lit match revealed that it was a hall, a narrow one, and it also revealed a closed door to the right, by Mr. Trevor's elbow, which he removed. The match went out. Quietly, said Mr. Maturin, quite unnecessarily, for Mr. Trevor says he cannot remember when he felt less noisy. He heard the door to his right, open, softly. Is it you opening that door? He asked merely from curiosity. Shh, snapped Maturin. Hang on to my shoulder blades. Mr. Trevor thought it better to calm Maturin's fears by acceding to his whim, and clung close behind him as they entered the room. The moon, which Mr. Trevor already had reason to dislike, was hanging at a moderate elevation over goldish green, as though on purpose to reveal the darkness of that room. Mr. Trevor's foot then struck a shape on the floor. The shape was soft and long. Mr. Trevor, surprised. Mr. Maturin whispered, "Found anything?" Mr. Trevor said briefly that his foot had. "So's mine," said Maturin. "What's yours like?" "Mine's rather soft to the touch." "And mine," said Mr. Trevor. "They're corpses, let's face it," sighed Mr. Maturin. "Making 15 in all, with us 17. Just give yours a kick, Ralph, to see if it's alive. I've kicked mine." "I don't kick corpses," Mr. Trevor was muttering when he felt a hard round thing shoved into the small of his back. "Ow!" said Mr. Trevor. "Found anything?" said Mr. Maturin. Mr. Trevor said briefly that there was something against his back. "And mine," said Mr. Maturin. "What's yours like?" "Mine's rather hard in the back." "So is mine," said Mr. Trevor. "They're revolvers, let's face it," sighed Maturin. "They are," said a harsh voice behind them, "so don't move." "I've got some sense, thank you," snapped Maturin. "Sir," said the harsh voice, and it was a woman's voice, "I want none of your lip. I have you each covered with a revolver." "Waste," said Maturin. "One revolver would have been quite enough. Besides, my friend and I were distinctly given to understanding that you are partial to a razor. Or do you use that for shaving?" "I use a razor," said the harsh voice, "only when I want to kill. But I have a use for you two." The light was suddenly switched on, a light so venomous, says Mr. Trevor, that they had to blink furiously. And that must have been a very large room, for they could not see into its far corners. The light came from what must have been a very high-powered lamp directly above a table in the middle of the room, and it was concentrated by a shade in such a way as to fall like a searchlight exactly on the two helpless gentlemen. Mr. Trevor says that Maturin's handsome face looked white and ghastly, that the Lord knows that Mr. Trevor's must have looked like. Meanwhile, the captor leapt from her station behind them, and they were privileged to see her for the first time. She was, says Mr. Trevor, exactly as Miss Samsonoff had described her. Grey and gaunt and dry, and her expression was strangely contemptuous and evil as sin. And never for a moment did she change the direction of her revolvers, which was towards their gentlemen's hearts. Mr. Trevor says he cannot remember when he saw a woman look less afraid that a revolver might go off in her hand. "Look down," she commanded. "It's all right," said Maturin peaceably. "We've already guessed what they are. Corpses. Nice cold night for them, too. Keep for days in weather like this." Mr. Trevor could not resist looking down to his feet. The corpses were of two youngish men in dress clothes. "They're cut badly," said Mr. Maturin. "They're not cut at all," said the woman harshly. "I shot these two for a change." "I meant their clothes," Mr. Maturin explained. "Death was too good for them with dress clothes like that." "Well, I can't stop here all night talking about clothes," snapped the woman. "Now, then, back to business. These bodies have to be buried in the back garden. You will each take one. There are spades just behind you. I shall not have the slightest hesitation in killing you, as I have killed these two. But it will be more convenient if you do as you are told. I may kill you later, and I may not. Now be quick." "Lord, what's that?" cried Mr. Trevor sharply. He had that moment realized a strange muffled ticking noise which must, he thought, come either from somewhere in the room or from a room nearby. And while he was never in his life less conscious of feeling fear, he could not help but be startled by that ticking noise, for he had heard it before when timing a dynamite bomb. "That is why," the woman explained with what Mr. Trevor supposed was meant to be a smile, "you will be safer in the garden. Women are but weak creatures, and so I take the precaution of having a rather large size and dynamite bombs so timed that I have but to press a button to send us all to blazes. It will not be comfortable for the police when, if they ever they catch me. But pick up those spades and get busy." "Now don't be rude," begged Maturin. "I can stand anything from plain women but discourtesy. Ralph, you take the bigger corpse, as you are smaller than I am, while I take this little fellow on my shoulder, which will probably be the nearest he will ever get to heaven, with clothes as cut as badly as that. You can come back for the bodies when you've dug the graves, snapped the woman. Take the spades and go along the passage. No tricks, I am just behind you. There was a lot of rubbish in that garden. It had never been treated as a garden. It did not look like a garden. It looked even less like a garden than the garden of my grandmother. High walls enclosed it, and over it that deplorable moon threw a sheet of dead daylight. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers, and they dug. Do you mind if we take our coats off? Asked Boomaturin. Mr. Trevor says that he was being sarcastic. I don't mind what you take off, snapped the woman. Now don't say naughty things, said Mr. Maturin. Nothing is more revolting than the naughtiness of plain women. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers, and they dug. They dug, says Mr. Trevor, for a long time, for a very long time. Not, however, that it was difficult digging once one had got into the swing of it, for the garden was mostly dug up soil. Suddenly, Boumaturin said, Bet you a fiver I dig a grave for my fellow before you. Right, said Mr. Trevor. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers, and they dug. And, said the woman, I don't allow any betting in this house, so call that bet off. What? Said Mr. Maturin. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers. Mr. Maturin threw down his spade. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers. Mr. Trevor dug. Mr. Maturin said, Dig yourself. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers. Mr. Trevor brandished his spade from a distance. He noticed for the first time that they had been digging in the light of the dawn and not of the moon. And who the deuce, said Mr. Maturin dangerously, do you think you are, not to allow any betting? I have stood a lot from you, but I won't stand that. Dig, said the woman with the revolvers, but Mr. Maturin advanced upon the revolvers like a punitive expedition. Mr. Trevor brandished his spade. Another step and I fire, cried the woman harshly. Go ahead, said Mr. Maturin. I'll teach you to stop me betting, and I hate your face. Oh dear, the woman suddenly cried with a face of fear, and lowering the revolvers, fled into the house. Mr. Trevor was so surprised that he could scarcely speak. Mr. Maturin laughed so much that he could not speak. What's there to laugh about? Mr. Trevor asked at last. It's funny. They've had us, let's face it. Come on, let's follow her in. She may shoot, Mr. Trevor cautioned. Shoot my eye, sighed Boumaturin. Once in the house, Mr. Trevor stopped spellbound. There were voices, there was laughter. From the room of the two corpses. They're laughing at us, said Mr. Trevor. Who wouldn't? Laughed Boumaturin, and opening the door said, Good morning. You've said it, said the policeman. Ha ha. You'll have some breakfast? Asked the woman with the revolvers. Please do. Said Miss Samsonoff. You ought to be hungry, said the taxi driver with the Homburg hat of green plush. Look here, gasped Mr. Trevor. What the blazes? Ha ha, laughed the policeman. Have a bit of felon pie? Now, Ted, don't be rude to the gentleman, said the woman with the revolvers. Quite right, mother, said Miss Samsonoff. We owe these gentlemen an explanation and an apology. Now, you two. Wait. And if they don't take it, we are in the soup, miserably said the man in the Homburg hat of green plush. Now, you two, go and get cups and plates for the two gentlemen, said the woman with the revolvers to the two corpses in dress clothes. Listen, please, Miss Samsonoff gravely addressed Mr. Maturin. My name isn't Samsonoff at all, but Kettlewell, and that's my mother, and these are my 4 brothers. How do you do, said Mr. Maturin, absently drinking the policeman's coffee, but Mr. Trevor is glad that no one heard what he said. You see, Miss Kettlewell, and she was shy and beautiful. We are the Kettlewell Film Company, just us, but of course we haven't got a lot of money. A lot is good, said the policeman. My brother there, and Miss Kettlewell pointed to the wretched man with the Homburg hat of green plush, was the director of an American company in Los Angeles, but got the sack lately, and so we thought we would make some films on our own. You see, we are such a large family, and the recent murders gave us a really brilliant idea for a film called The Ghoul of Golders Green, which, thanks to you two, that has like a little footnote. When the film was released by the Kettlewell Film Corporation, evidences of public favor were so notably lacking that it was offered to the Society of Presenting Nature Films to the Blind. Surely after the above exposure of the methods adopted, no further reason should be sought for one so much deplored inferiority of British film. Okay, alright, I see how it is. Yeah, that's okay. Gentlemen, we have completed 2 tonight. Oh, I do hope it will be a success, especially as you have been kind enough to help us in our predicament, for we haven't had any money to engage actors. And we did so need 2 gentlemen just like you, who really looked the part, didn't we, Mother? But my dear child, cried Boomaturin, I'm afraid your film can't have come out very well. Trevor and I will look perfectly ghastly, as we neither of us had any makeup on. But it's that kind of film, smiled Miss Kettlewell. You see, you and your friend are supposed to be the corpses who, by some powerful psychic agency, are digging your own graves. Heavens, what's that? There at the open door stood an apparition with a dreadful face. He appeared, says Mr. Trevor, to have some difficulty in choosing among the words that his state of mind was suggesting to him. And me? Gasped the taxi driver hoarsely. What about me? Hanging a bottle night. Who's going to pay me? That's what I want to know. There's 4 quid and more on the clock. Mr. Maturin swept his empty coffee cup round to indicate the family kettlewell. My friends will pay, signed Mr. Maturin. What the fuck was this? What the hell? What was the story? Oh, so basically, they had them like on a wild goose chase so that they can like film a movie. What? This is what? It just feels. Oh my god, what? You ever dream of a story? Definitely. And honestly, I feel like it was pretty good. I felt like it was a kind of like plug-in. I thought it was good, but then suddenly it's just like, female, ugly female, you are stopping me from betting. I don't care that you're gonna shoot me. You've been rude to me all night, but you will not tell me not to bet. You know. And then suddenly it's like, do you want breakfast? It's like, what the what? You know, I feel like we've witnessed one of the first examples of plot twist, but I feel like there's not really a plot to twist. It's just like a completely like alternate ending to something that like there's no continuity. I feel like there's no like proper continuity to this story. What the hell? I felt like it was going like really, really well. And like we never even found out what the murders were. It's just, oh yeah, no, there's been murders. Anyway, we're making a movie. Like it's like he copped out of actually finishing and like actually having the woman be like a murderer as I don't know. Maybe I feel like the author probably felt like having this twist ending would have been like a better attention grab, and probably been a little bit more like genre subjective, so subversive. There we go. It would subvert the genre, and so he decided on that instead of actually like finishing the story like a normal person. There was so much setup. I don't know why it was like this. Then I just, you know, I don't know. I honestly had hoped that it was the plush hat man that actually murdered. Let me see how long the next one is. Okay, then the next one's not too long. Yeah, I had hoped that, you know, it would have been a little bit more fun. I felt like the guy in the green hat would have been a good killer, or at least like a guide to help, because he was really, really eager to get business. They had me like, oh, Mr. Trevor is the killer, oh, Miss Simpson is the killer, obviously, and then he hit us with that ending. Yeah, it just like. Yeah, he set it up so well. Like, you could have really gotten, like, some sort of, you could have really gotten, like, a lot of, like, there's a lot of better alternative endings that I feel like the book could have, well, sorry, not book, short story could have had if given, the opportunity, you know? I feel like it would have been good, but it's just I don't know. It failed to live up to my expectations with the ending. I feel like it would have been better if he actually closed off on the like actual murder storyline. But right now it's, you know, it's kind of you know, it's a bit kind of iffy. I don't want to give like a rating out of something because I feel like I should respect the work of people that have already passed on. So I shan't comment. But that's my criticism. If anybody, oh, there's a dog here. Hell yeah. Good story, bad ending. Yeah, there you go. Well, we could have had a better ending. Yes. The crab Mr. Trevor mentioned in the beginning didn't come back as an important plot point. Honestly, I don't... Was it crabs? Did he get like an STD? I love the kid. It was very silly. Honestly, it was really fun. It was really fun because of the silliness. I feel it. I really tried to go into it like seriously, but then like him arguing with the policeman at the store, it just completely threw me off. Oh, what if that person was a terrible person? Then I guess we can. But I don't know any of these people. I don't really want to go looking for it, so we're gonna have to deal with that. Okay, the next one is the murder of the Mandarin. A young wife in a Midlands town, a new dress, a dance, an unimaginative husband. How could a Mandarin's death in faraway China have anything to do with a homely situation like this? By Arnold Bennett. Arnold Bennett, 1867 to 1931, born in modest surroundings at Hanley in Staffordshire, gained a dominant position in English letters. His best work is in his stories, of which this is one, about the 5 pottery towns, the Clayhanger series. He was one of the great money makers among English writers, and he knew the art of spending money. The almost naive wonder displays of wealth aroused in him called out some of his best writing. Okay, so this guy had a loose wallet. That was one of his best qualities. Okay, understandable. Okay. This will be our last 3 for tonight because I can feel my throat kind of like scratching after reading for so long, and also my mouth is dry even though I just drank. So it's the beginning of the end. Okay, the murder of the Mandarin. What's that you're saying about murder? Asked Mrs. Cheswardine. These surnames, man. As she came into the large drawing room, carrying the supper tray. Put it down here, said her husband, referring to the supper tray and pointing to a little table which stood 2 legs off and 2 legs on the hearth rug. That apron suits you immensely, murmured Woodruff, the friend of the family, as he stretched his long limbs into the fender towards the fire, farther even than the long limbs of Cheswardine. Each man occupied an easy chair on either side of the hearth. Each was very tall, and each was 40. Mrs. Cheswardine, with a whisk infinitely graceful, set the tray on the table, took a seat behind it on a chair that looked like a toddling grandnephew of the armchairs, and nervously smoothed out the apron. As a matter of fact, the apron did suit her immensely. It is astounding, delicious, adorable, the effect of a natty little domestic apron suddenly put on over an elaborate and costly frock, especially when you can hear the rustle of a silk petticoat beneath, and more especially when the apron is smoothed out by jeweled fingers. Every man knows this. Every woman knows it. Mrs. Cheswardine knew it. In such matters, Mrs. Cheswardine knew exactly what she was about. She delighted when her husband brought Woodruff in late of a night, as he frequently did after a turn at the club, to prepare with her own hands, the servants being in bed, a little snack of supper for them. Tomato sandwiches, for instance, miraculously thin, together with champagne or Bass. The men preferred Bass, naturally, but if Mrs. Cheswardine had a fancy for a sip of champagne out of her husband's tumbler, Bass was not forthcoming. Tonight it was champagne. Woodruff opened it, as he always did, and involuntarily poured out a libation of the hearth, as he almost always did. Good-natured, ungainly, long-suffering men seldom achieved the art of opening champagne. Mrs. Cheswardine tapped her pink-slippered foot impatiently. "You're all nerves tonight," Woodruff laughed, "and you've made me nervous," and at length he got some of the champagne into a tumbler. "No, I'm not," Mrs. Cheswardine contradicted him. "Yes, you are, Vera," Woodruff insisted calmly. She smiled. The use of that elegant Christian name, with its faint suggestion of Russian archduchesses, had a strange effect on her, particularly from the lips of Woodruff. She was proud of it, and of her surname too, one of the oldest surnames in the 5 towns. The syllables of Vera invariably soothed her like a charm. Woodruff, and Cheswardine also, had called her Vera during the whole of her life, and she was 30. They had all 3 lived in different houses at the top end of Trafalgar Road, Bursley. Woodruff fell in love with her first, when she was 18, but with no practical result. He was a brown-haired man, personable despite his ungainliness, but he failed to perceive that to worship from afar off is not the best way to capture a young woman with large eyes and an emotional disposition. Cheswardine, who had a black beard, simply came along and married the little thing. She fluttered down onto his shoulders like a pigeon. She adored him, feared him, cooed to him, worried him, and knew that there were depths of his mind which she would never plumb. Woodruff, after being best man, went on loving, meekly, and yet philosophically, and found his chief joy in just these suppers. The arrangement suited Vera, and as for the husband and the hopeless admirer, they had always been fast friends. "I asked you what you were saying about murder," said Vera sharply, "but it seems... Oh. Did you?" Woodruff apologized. "I was saying that murder isn't such an impossible thing as it appears. Anyone might commit a murder." "Then you want to defend Harrisford?" "Do you hear what he says, Stephen?" The notorious and terrible Harrisford murders were agitating the Five Towns that November. People read, talked, and dreamt murder. For several weeks they took murder to all their meals. "He doesn't want to defend Harrisford at all," said Cheswardine with a superior masculine air. "And of course anyone might commit a murder. I might." "Ooh, Stephen, how horrid you are!" "You might, even," said Woodruff, gazing at Vera. "Charlie, why the blood alone?" "There isn't always blood," said the oracular husband. "Listen here," proceeded Woodruff, who read variously and enjoyed philosophical speculation. "Supposing that by just taking thought, by just wishing it, an Englishman could kill a Mandarin in China and make himself rich for life without anybody knowing anything about it, how many Mandarins do you suppose there would be left in China at the end of a week?" "At the end of 24 hours, rather," said Cheswardine grimly. "Not one," said Woodruff. "But that's absurd," Vera objected, disturbed. When these two men began their philosophical discussions, they always succeeded in disturbing her. She hated to see life in a queer light. She hated to think. "It isn't absurd," Woodruff replied. "It simply shows that what prevents wholesale murder is not the wickedness of it, but the fear of being found out, and the general mass, and seeing the corpse, and so on." Vera shuddered. "And I'm not sure," Woodruff proceeded, "that murder is so very much more wicked than lots of other things." "Usury, for instance," Cheswardine put in. "Or bigamy," said Woodruff. "But an Englishman couldn't kill a Mandarin in China by just wishing it," said Vera, looking up. "How do we know?" said Woodruff in his patient voice. "How do we know? You remember when I was telling you about thought transference last week? It was in Borderland." Vera felt as if there was no more solid ground to stand on, and it angered her to be plunging about in a bog. "I think it's simply silly," she remarked. "No thanks." She said "no thanks" to her husband when he tendered his glass. He moved the glass still closer to her lips. "I said no thanks," she repeated dryly. "Just a mouthful," he urged. "I'm not thirsty." "Then you'd better go to bed," said he. He had a habit of sending her to bed abruptly. She did not dislike it, but she had various ways of going. Tonight it was the way of an archduchess. Woodruff, in stating that Vera was all nerves that evening, was quite right. She was, and neither her husband nor Woodruff knew the reason. The reason had to do most intimately with frocks. Vera had been married 10 years, but no one would have guessed it to watch her girlish figure and her bird-like ways. You see, she was the only child in the house. She often bitterly regretted the absence of offspring to the name and honor of Cheswardine. She envied other wives their babies. She doted on babies. She said continually that in her deliberate opinion the proper mission of women was babies. She was the sort of woman that regards a cathedral as a place built especially to sit in and dream soft domestic dreams. The sort of woman that adores music simply because it makes her dream. And Vera's brown studies, which were frequent, consisted chiefly of babies. But as babies amused themselves by coming down the chimneys of all other houses in Bursley, and avoiding her house, she sought comfort in frocks. She made the best of herself, and it was a good best. Her figure was as near perfect as a woman's can be, and then there were those fine emotional eyes, and that flutteringness of the pigeon, and an ever-changing charm of gesture. Vera had become the best-dressed woman in Bursley, and that is saying something. Her husband was wealthy, with an increasing income, though of course as an earthenware manufacturer and the son and grandson of an earthenware manufacturer, he joined heartily in the general Five Towns lamentation that there was no longer any money to be made out of pots. He liked to have a well-dressed woman about the house, and he allowed her an incredible allowance, the amount of which was breathed with awe among Vera's friends. 100 a year, in fact. He paid it to her quarterly by check. Such was his method. Now a ball was to be given by the members of the Ladies' Hockey Club, or such of them as had not been made for life in the pursuit of this noble pastime, on the very night after the conversation about murder. Vera belonged to the hockey club in a purely ornamental sense, and she had procured a frock for the ball which was circulated to crown her reputation as a mirror of elegance. The skirt had, but no, see the columns of the Staffordshire signal. What the the skirt had, but no. See the columns of the Staffordshire Signal for the 9th of November, 1901. Okay. Okay. The mischief was that the gown lacked, for its final perfection, one particular thing, and the particular thing was separated from Vera by the glass front of Brunt's celebrated shop at Hanbridge. Vera could have managed without it. The gown would still have been brilliant without it. But Vera had seen it, and she wanted it. Its cost was a guinea. Well, you will say, what is a guinea to a dainty creature with 100 a year? Let her go and buy the article. The point is that she couldn't, because she had only 6 and 7 pence left in the wild world. And 6 weeks to Christmas. She had squandered, oh, soul above money, £25, and more than £25 since the 29th of September. Well, you will say, credit in other words, tick? No. The giant Stephen absolutely and utterly forbade her to procure anything whatever on credit. She was afraid of him. She knew just how far she could go with Stephen. He was great and terrible. Well, you will say, why couldn't she blandish and cajole Stephen for a sovereign or so? Impossible. She had 100 a year on the clear understanding that it was never exceeded nor anticipated. Well, you will discreetly hint there are certain devices known to housewives. Hush. Vera had already employed them. 6 and 7 pence was not merely all that remained to her of her dress allowance. It was all that remained to her of her household allowances till the next Monday. Hence her nerves. There the poor unfortunate woman lay, with her unconscious tyrant of a husband snoring beside her, desolately wakeful under the nightlight in the large, luxurious bedroom. 3 servants sleeping overhead, champagne in the cellar, furs in the wardrobe, valuable lace around her neck at the very instant, grand piano in the drawing-room, horses in the stable, stuffed bear in the hall. And her life was made a blank for want of 14 and 5 pence, and she had nobody to confide in. How true it is that the human soul is solitary, that content is the only true riches, and that to be happy we must be good. It was at that juncture of despair that she thought of mandarins, or rather, I may as well be frank, she had been thinking of mandarins all the time since retiring to rest. There might be something in Charlie's mandarin theory. According to Charlie, so many queer, inexplicable things happened in the world. Occult, subliminal, astral, thought waves. These expressions and many more occurred to her as she recollected Charlie's disconcerting conversations. There might. One never knew. Suddenly she thought of her husband's pockets, bulging with silver and with gold and with banknotes. Tantalizing vision. No, she could not steal. Besides, he might wake up. And she returned to mandarins. She got herself into a very morbid and 2 o'clock in the morning state of mind. Suppose it was a dodge that did work. Well, of course, she was extremely superstitious. We all are. She began to reflect seriously upon China. She remembered having heard that Chinese mandarins were very corrupt, that they ground the faces of the poor and put innocent victims to the torture. In short, they were very sinful and horrid persons, scoundrels unfit for mercy. Then she pondered upon the remotest parts of China, regions where Europeans never could penetrate. No doubt there was some unimportant mandarin somewhere in these regions to whose district his death would be a decided blessing, to kill whom would indeed be an act of humanity. Probably a mandarin without wife or family, a bachelor mandarin whom no relative would regret, or, in the alternative, a mandarin with many wives whose disgusting polygamy merited severe punishment. An old mandarin already pretty nearly dead, or, in the alternative, a young one just commencing a career of infamy. I'm awfully silly, she whispered to herself. But still, if there should be anything in it, and I must have that thing for my dress. She looked again at the dim forms of her husband's clothes, pitched anyhow on an ottoman. No, she could not stoop to theft. So she murdered a mandarin, lying in bed there, not any particular mandarin, a vague mandarin, the mandarin she most convenient and suitable under all the circumstances. She deliberately wished him dead, on the off chance of acquiring riches, or more accurately, because she was short of 14 and 5 pence in order to look perfectly splendid at a ball. In the morning, when she woke up, her husband had already departed to the works. She thought how foolish she had been in the night. She did not feel sorry for having desired the sudden death of a fellow creature. Not at all. She felt sorry because she was convinced in the cold night of day that the charm would not work. Charlie's notions were really too ridiculous, too preposterous. No. She must reconcile herself to wearing a ball dress which was less than perfection and all want of 14 and 5 pence. And she had more nerves than ever. She had nerves to such an extent that when she went to unlock the drawer of her own private toilet table, in which her prudent and fussy husband forced her to lock up her rings and brooches every night, she attacked the wrong drawer, an empty, unfastened drawer that she never used. And lo, the empty drawer was not empty. There was a sovereign lying in it. This gave her a start, connecting the discovery as naturally at the first blush she did with the Mandarin. Surely it couldn't be after all. Then she came to her senses. What absurdity! A coincidence, of course, nothing else. Besides, a mere sovereign. It wasn't enough. Charlie had said rich for life. The sovereign must have lain there for months and months. Forgotten. However, it was nonetheless a sovereign. She picked it up, thanked Providence, ordered the dog cart, and drove straight to Brunt's. The particular thing that she acquired was an exceedingly thin, slim, and fetching silver belt. A marvel for the money, and the ideal waist decoration for her wonderful white muslin gown. She bought it and left the shop. And as she came out of the shop, she saw a street urchin holding out the poster of the early edition of The Signal. And she read on the poster in large letters, Death of Li Hung Chang. It is no exaggeration to say that she nearly fainted. Only by the exercise of that hard self-control of which women alone are capable did she refrain from tumbling against the blue-clad breast of Adams, the Cheswardine coachman. She purchased The Signal with well-feigned calm, opened it and read, Stop Press News. Pekin, Li Hongchang, the celebrated Chinese statesman, died at 2 o'clock this morning. Ruder. Vera reclined on the sofa that afternoon, and the sofa was drawn around in front of the drawing room fire. And she wore her fluffiest and languidest peignoir. And there was a perfume of eau de cologne in the apartment. Vera was having a headache. She was having it in her grand, her official manner. Stephen had to lunch alone. He had been told that in her probability his suffering wife would not be well enough to go to the ball, whereupon he had grunted. As a fact, Vera's headache was extremely real, and she was very upset indeed. The death of Li Hongchang was heavily on her soul. Occultism was justified of itself. The affair lay beyond the coincidence. She had always known that there was something in the occultism, supernaturalism, so-called superstitions, whatnot. But she had never expected to prove the faith that was in her by such a homicidal act on her own part. It was detestable of Charlie to have mentioned the thing at all. He had no right to play with fire, and as for her husband, words could give but the merest rough outline of her resentment against Stephen. A pretty state of things that a woman with a position such as she had to keep up should be reduced to 6 and 7 pence. Stephen, no doubt, expected her to visit the pawn shop. It would serve him right if she did so, and he met her coming out under the 3 brass balls. Did she not dress solely and wholly to please him? Not in the least to please herself. Personally, she had a mindset on higher things, impossible aspirations, but he liked fine clothes, and it was her duty to satisfy him. She strove to satisfy him in all matters. She lived for him. She sacrificed herself to him completely. And what did she get in return? Nothing. 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 All men were selfish, and women were their victims. Stephen, with his silly bullying rules against credit and so forth. The worst of men was that they had no sense. She put a new dose of eau de cologne on her forehead and leaned on one elbow. On the mantelpiece lay the tissue parcel containing the slim silver belt, the price of Lee's death. She wanted to stick it in the fire, and only the fact that it would not burn prevented her savagely doing so. There was something wrong, too, with the occultism. To receive a paltry sovereign for murdering the greatest statesman of the Eastern Hemisphere was simply grotesque. Moreover, she had most distinctly not wanted to deprive China of a distinguished man. She had expressly stipulated for an inferior and insignificant Mandarin, one that could be spared and that was unknown to Reuter? She supposed she ought to have looked up China at the Wedgwood Institution and selected the definite Mandarin with his definite place of residence. But could she be expected to go about a murder deliberately like that? With regard to the gross inadequacy of the fiscal return for her deed, perhaps that was her own fault. She had not wished for more. Her brain had been so occupied by the belt that she had wished only for the belt. But perhaps, on the other hand, best wealth was to come. Perhaps something might occur that very night. That would be better. Yet would it be better? However rich she might become, Stephen would coolly take charge of her riches and dole them out to her and make rules for her concerning them. And besides, Charlie would suspect her guilt. Charlie understood her and perused her thoughts far better than Stephen did. She would never be able to conceal the truth from Charlie. That conversation, the death of Lee within 2 hours, and then a sudden fortune accruing to her, Charlie would inevitably put 2 and 2 together and divine her shameful secret. The outlook was thoroughly black anyway. She then fell asleep. When she awoke, some considerable time afterwards, Stephen was calling to her. It was his voice, indeed, that had aroused her. The room was dark. "I say, Vera," he demanded in a low, slightly inimical tone. "Have you taken a sovereign out of the empty drawer in your toilet table?" "No," she said quickly, without thinking. "Ah," he observed reflectively. "I knew I was right." He paused and added coldly, "If you aren't better, you ought to go to bed." Then he left her, shutting the door with a noise that showed a certain lack of sympathy with her headache. She sprang up. Her first feeling was one of thankfulness that the brief interview had occurred in darkness. Stephen was aware of the existence of the sovereign. The sovereign was not occult. Probably he had put it there, and what did he know he was right about? She lighted the gas and gazed at herself in the glass, realizing that she had no longer had a headache, and endeavoring to arrange her ideas. "What's this?" said another voice at the door. She glanced around hastily, guiltily. It was Charlie. "Steve telephoned me you were too old to go to the dance," explained Charlie, "so I thought you had come to make inquiries." "I quite expected to find you in bed with a nurse and a doctor or 2 at least. What is it?" He smiled. "Nothing," she replied. "Only a headache. It's gone now." She stood against the mantelpiece so that he should not see the white parcel. "That's good," said Charlie. There was a pause. "Strange. Li Hung Chang dying last night, just after we had been talking about killing mandarins," she said. She could not keep off the subject. It attracted her like a snake, and she approached it in spite of the fact that she fervently wished not to approach it. "Yes," said Charlie, "but Lee wasn't a mandarin, you know, and he didn't die after we had been talking about mandarins. He died before." "Oh, I thought it said in the paper he died at 2 o'clock this morning." 2 a.m. in Pekin. Pekin? Charlie answered. "You must remember that Pekin time is many hours earlier than our time. It lies so far eastward." "Oh," she said again. Stephen hurried in with a worried air. "Ah, it's you, Charlie." "She isn't absolutely dying, I find," said Charlie, turning to Vera. "You're going to the dance after all, aren't you?" "I say, Vera," Stephen interrupted. "Either you or I must have a scene with Martha. I've always suspected that confound housemaid. So they put a marked sovereign in a drawer this morning, and it was gone at lunchtime. She'd better hug it instantly. Of course, I shan't persecute." "Martha!" cried Vera. "Stephen, what on earth are you thinking of? I wish you would leave the servants to me. If you think you can manage this house in your spare time from the works, you are welcome to try, but don't blame me for the consequences." Glances of triumph flashed in her eyes. "But I tell you—" "Nonsense," said Vera. "I took the sovereign. I saw it there and I took it, and just to punish you, I've spent it. It's not at all nice to lay traps for servants like that." "Then why did you tell me just now you hadn't taken it?" Stephen demanded crossly. "I didn't feel well enough to argue with you then," Vera replied. "You've recovered precious quick," retorted Stephen with grimness. "Of course, if you want to make a scene before strangers," Vera whimpered. "Poor Charlie, a stranger." "I'll go to bed." Stephen knew when he was beaten. She went to the hockey dance, though. She and Stephen and Charlie and his younger sister, aged 17, all descended together to the town hall in a brougham. The young girl admired Vera's belt excessively and looked forward to the moment when she, too, should be a bewitching and captivating wife like Vera. In short, a woman of the world, worshipped by grave, bearded men. And both the men were under the spell of Vera's incurable charm, capricious, surprising, exasperating, indefinable, indispensable to their lives. "Stupid superstitions," reflected Vera. "But of course, I never believed it really." And she cast down her eyes to gloat over the belt. And that was The Murder of the Mandarin, which ended up not even being a Mandarin at all. Which really tells you how educated they were back in the day. Yeah, she thought she was. Yeah, she definitely was. I don't know. I agree I'm with you, Quinn. One of the good ones you could say. Okay. I'm not like the other guys. Oh my god. No, I thought that was kind of fun. A little bit fun. I was a bit scared because when they kept saying Mandarin, I was like a little bit like, oh,
I was a bit afraid that it was gonna go like in a weird direction, but I'm glad to say that they kind of, oh, what was that? What was that? Woman, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. What the hell? A fun read. Hi, Tuna. Hi. A fun read. It was a fun read. I guess it was a fun read. We've completed 3 stories so far. We're not really that far into the book either. Actually, we are kind of far into the book. Oh my god. It's good for a first day of reading, especially since I'm reading out loud. I feel like I'd be like halfway done with this book if I wasn't reading out loud. Well, there's 3 stories in. Let me actually count. Let me see how many stories we have. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 23, 24, 25, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50, 1, 51. Yeah, there's 51 stories. So we are absolutely going to be doing this like at least like once every 2 weeks, I think. I feel like that's a good call. I really miss this book. I hope there is one story which I'm not particularly sure if it's from here, but it's one particular story that I had like I guess my mind has been like really focused on it. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to see if it's actually that one. Countess. There's pictures, there's pictures, and I'm trying to see if maybe I'll recognize one. Oh no. Okay, we will be skipping one. I think. I might read this one ahead. Unfortunately, the tales from from the olden times are very risky with the things that they write about. Oh my god, there's a story from Edgar Allan Poe in here. Berenice? Ooh, that's interesting. Damn, so this was actually Bram Stoker? Holy shit. Oh, they actually got really good people in here. Wow, that's crazy. Gotta do a little curating. Yeah, unfortunately. That's why I was so iffy about the last story. The 9 stories that follow are for those who like their tales of ghosts and mysteries neat. They are stories, especially if you read them alone after dark, that may make you glance over your shoulder and perhaps even start when there is a creak on the stair. In front of you are the 9 stories. Read on if you wish. There's like a little warning for like the really scary stories. That's cute. Honestly, I never even got like far enough to like read that, but I'm still trying to see. It's just like a, as long as you're still, I think it was like a story about like a sailor. Getting moitered, I think. Cupboard. It was about a sailor, and there was like a chest, and your man would like. Oh my god, there's so many crayon marks on this fucking book. Some random kid was being really really reckless with it. There's like pencil marks and crayon marks. I wonder if I'll be able to erase them or not. I really don't want to like get rid of like any words on the pages. Oh, yes, I don't know. Ben Blower. That's what they call me at high school. The dwarfs. Yes, it was about a sailor. And I think, and there was like a dude, and they were like talking in like like a little hut, and there was like a tale about the sailor's arm being found. I think maybe I was hallucinating that one. Ooh. This one's gonna be iffy. I feel like there's a little section that I'm really afraid of. I'm really afraid of. But I hope it don't be too bad. Actually, let me see in the blurbs maybe. This farm. Oh, I think Hammer of God. I've read that one definitely. The Tiger also. What's odd about the garden, the Paxton? A demented mouse. Right in. Billiards, genial. Other sense. List of honor. Benmore. I wonder. Sorry, I'm just reading through the little blurbs. I'm trying to see if I'm like hallucinating the story or not. Grocer. Color. Green light. London. It's 429. But yeah, I wanted to do a hand cam, but as I mentioned before, unfortunately, I was dyeing my hair red, and my fingernails are stained. So unfortunately, I of course, yeah. I cannot for my own sake. Voodoo rites in Haiti. Ooh. Goat cry, girl cry. The Mahatma story. Ghost. I would have thought it would have been earlier because I remember looking at the early one. Maybe it'll be one of those early ones. I don't know. Maybe it was the Hammer of God. I'm not sure. Maybe. Sorry, I just I'm so caught up on the story that I just I generally thought that I read it. Maybe I wasn't a sailor. Maybe I wasn't a sailor. It was just like a buff guy with a tattoo. I don't know. Okay, anyway. Alright, I'm gonna stop dwelling on it so much. Okay. Please, Carol, let me see the stain. No, you creep! Get away from me! You're not gonna see my stained pink fingernails. Ew! I spent all night yesterday trying to wash it off, and then I woke up and it actually washed off. And now my hands are tinged pink. Wait, why am I? Okay, I should stop looking at my hands because they're starting to freak me out. I don't know if it's the lighting, but my left hand looks longer than my right one, and it's freaking me out. Okay. Queer is still one of my favorite old words. I know this. I like that they just use queer and gay in the olden days and fucking what was it? Poo poo. I still don't know what poo poo means. Yeah. Wait, are dyed blonde toes still cool? I I don't know. I've only seen one guy with them, and I think he like just absolutely fried his hair, and it didn't look good. So if you have like really really black hair, really dark hair, I don't think it should be for you. Personally, I had like blonde tips because I had like all of my hair was blonde like 2 years ago. Like it was kind of long, and then I trimmed it. It grew out, and now I have like at least like 2 inches of actual like blonde that it did just like over time I guess fell out. And then I also tried to dye my hair silver. Well, I tried to dye silver my like blonde sections, and that actually ended up lightening my hair. So I ended up with like a little bit of a lighter section because my hair is like naturally brown. So I have like brown, like burgundy, and then red. Also, I have my white hair, which I have kind of like a lot of now. It didn't dye either. It did not catch the dye, broskies. I'm about to start looking like a hag in like 2 to 3 business years. It's gonna be so fucking over. That's why I wanted to like dye my hair because I didn't like the blonde and I wanted to like dye my white hairs because I thought it'd be like, oh my white, look, they're brighter than the others. It would look like highlights, but they don't, and I'm literally gonna kill myself. But yeah, yes, I unfortunately, I yes. My hair is in a state, but it's very long. Yesterday I bought like a straightening hair brush, and it's actually really cool. It's actually really cool. I really like it. I was looking for one for ages, but like I didn't want to buy one online because I didn't really trust them, so I bought one here. It was actually discounted half price. I didn't even see that there was a discount or nothing, but it was discounted at half price, and the guy at the till told me, and I was like, oh my god, what? Because there wasn't like a sticker or anything, saying anything. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to, maybe dyeing my hair again. It does say, like, it's so bright. It's so nice and bright, though. I want to kind of bleach my hair and then, like, dye the rest of it this red color because it's so pretty. But yeah. Also, no, you can't see my fingers. You can't see my fingers. All day today, I've just been feeling so self-conscious about it because, like, you can literally, okay, throughout, like, most of my day, like, you can see, like, around the cuticles is where most of, like, the dead skin is. And now I feel like that absorbs the most of the dye. And currently, I have, like, they're, like, not even evenly stained pink. They're really patchy and really gross. And I just, like, I wish I could paint over them, but I have no nail polish. The only time that I bought nail polish, I had, it is Polish, doesn't have any polish. But the only one time I bought them, I actually bought the wrong kind. I bought one of those for, like, you'd use under, like, a lamp. for not acrylic, but you could, those like lamp nails. Girls do them, like paint, put them under the lamp, they get hard, and like your nails are dead, Can you tell I've gotten my nails done once? But yeah, they're just gross, and I would have streamed handcam so you guys can like actually like maybe look at the pictures or like see me reading and actively like changing pages, but I really hate it. I really hate it. Oh, it looks so bad. I don't know. I hope my fingernails fall off or something. But yes, that was just me. That's just what I've been up to. I got I saw that frog today. I saw that frog today. What else? I don't know what else. Is there anything else? I don't know. Maybe someone gets to see the Korean marked pages. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We actually didn't go to the little to the little thing for our Warsaw Uprising celebration because it was at 7 p.m. and I only got home at like 7 p.m. Fuck, 17. I got confused at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. and I got it confused with I got it confused with wait, what am I talking about? Oh yes, no, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. But I finished work at like I got home at like 30 past 4, so we really couldn't have, and like also eaten dinner, so my dad was actually waiting for me. I actually got up really early. I was at work at 7:30, so realistically I should have finished at like 5:30 or at least earlier because usually my work is pretty forgiving, but I don't know what happened today. Actually, I know what happened today. I lost fucking 30 minutes because some fucking bitch came in, started yelling at me for making a mistake, even though it wasn't even mine, and I had to double check because I was actually texting my dad about like what I was doing that day, and I know it wasn't me because I was not on that station. So you know that's not my business. That's not my responsibility. All right, but I still got given out to by my by my like manager ? My boss. The woman in charge, I guess, of the stuff I do, because yes, I didn't know that I wasn't like working there because I was like, you know, obviously covering for somebody, and like, you know, because I'm covering for somebody, obviously I'm like, you know, the only person that has ever like actually worked there in that section, you know, obviously. You're allowed to fight them? No, not while the manager is standing right beside me getting yelled at and being like, how can you do this? How can you hire people like this? And I'm just like staring at my manager like, as if it's my fault. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'll tell her next Monday. I'll tell her Monday. I'll be like, listen, you were mean to me, and I want an apology because it wasn't me. It was my coworker. No, I'm kidding. I'm probably gonna forget about it, but I'm really salty today. You're allowed to eat their skin. I don't think that's legal. Anyway, but yes. There's a lot of reaction for a frog. A frog's room. Well, see. The problem is, frogs are probably not rare. I've seen a few of them. But as I've said, I guess it was in the video where it was like, holy shit, it's a frog. I haven't seen one that wasn't squashed, because that's literally, I've seen at least like 4 squashed frogs, on like some dirt forest roads. But this was like in a neighborhood that like doesn't have any water near it. Like genuinely, like there's no water anywhere around, and like the fact that there was just a frog in the middle of this neighborhood was crazy. The kind of saw it, it's endangered. Oh my god, I literally found the unicorn. It's crazy. So not that many around anyway. Yeah, damn, I literally saw a unicorn. Man, the universe is sending me signs. Okay, I'm not one of those like girls that like believe about like superstitious stuff too much, but like I've been seeing a lot of angel numbers lately, and I would like to believe that this means good things are coming. I'm praying that good things are coming. Please, good things come, please. I beg. Also, I cry and I pray and I beg. I'm manifesting. Oh, time to pet a frog. I am absolutely not touching that. No. They're cool, but no. Frog may or may not grant your wish. Oh no, I don't think I want to. Man, I remember, I think it was from Dork Diaries, or actually it might have, no. Oh, it was like one of those like little child book series, and I remember one of the main girls found a frog and she gave it to her brother, and she was like, oh, you have to wait until it does something special, and the brother's like, oh, what's gonna be special? And then like the frog pisses on him and she laughs at him. I don't remember which book series that was. I just remember it was like some like feminine, well, for girls, for little girls. It was a good book series for little girls about a little girl, you know? I think it was her first day of school, too. Good, it's going to happen in 7 to 8 months. 7 to 8 months? 7 to 8 months is crazy. That's too much time. That's too much time. Oh, I'm checked by the beast. What? Is the one that randomly changed to anime halfway through? It like basically had like her drawing and then like I guess POVs inserted as well. So like you'd have like the cute little like dorky drawings that like the main character would draw, and then you'd have some like more kind of anime-ish, I guess, illustrations as I guess as you said, with you know, with like I guess like scenes from like real life that she was describing, I guess. Yes. I got pissed on by a squirrel. You got pissed on by a squirrel? What the fuck? That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't think I've ever. Well, okay. Well, not by like a wild animal. I don't think I've ever gotten pissed on by a wild animal. There's still time for my first. You know, I feel like there's still time. But a brother and sister friend sounds familiar. I know it's like I can't like I know that like the little girl the cover was green. I know she was like working on a project like a craft project for her school, like get to know me, I guess, because new school year thing. They had a club called TP, I think. Like toilet paper, but it's just TP. I think, yeah, they called it toilet paper because it was an inside joke because of the frog. What else was there? I know she made a project. She was blonde. She had like a little like short hair, like I guess medium hair. It was kind of flipped up. I know she was blonde. I'm pretty sure it's blonde. Okay, wait, I gotta look up. Blonde girl book series. Oh no, this is gonna be. Oh no. This is gonna be awful. For girls. Blonde book series for girls. Okay, maybe not book series for girls. Judy Moody. Yeah, wait. I think it was Judy Moody. Oh my god, it was Judy Moody. Sorry, I miss blonded her, miss gingered her. I thought she was. I remembered her as blonde, but yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty okay. No. I'm pretty sure it was Judy Moody. Yeah, because I remember her roar pants. I thought this was such like a charming, very charming book series. Honestly, it was so like kooky. I don't know how to describe it. You know, a ginger eraser. No. Like about her brother getting a jawbreaker. Damn. I think I read the first one because that's the one. Yeah, there's like she wanted to wear her tiger pajamas and she's like cutting stuff up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay. Time to invest in a Judy Moody book so we can read it together. But only the first one because it's probably the only one that I'll know. Those from Wild Animal Bites. Damn, that's crazy. I just see woodland animals, I guess. Sometimes I feel like a Disney princess because I just like fucking like come across like the most random fucking animals. Especially this week. This week I came across a mouse and a fucking frog. I also had like really nice butterfly pictures too. I don't know. I feel like I had really good luck with animals for the last couple of weeks. I don't know. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe it's a sign, you know. I hope it is. I genuinely hope it is. Attracting familiars. Yeah, I'm gonna start witching. I'm gonna start making like you know, what's it called? not seances, but like rituals. we're gonna start performing rituals. Yeah, we're gonna start a coven. We're gonna start performing rituals on stream, and and then we're gonna like, I don't know, manifest me to become huge. You know, and we might have to do some like blood oaths and blood sacrifices. But I mean, it's a price you're willing to pay, right, campers? Because the campus getting a witch coven, yeah. See, that's what I was talking about. Like, I feel like my lore has a lot of parallels to like a witch in the woods. You know, I feel like I feel like there are a lot of parallels. So I'd like to maybe try to work on that as well one day for my medieval arc. Literally, seriously, literally. You want SC and have a spell done for you? Hell yeah. Okay, let's go. Do it right now. Have you ever been to a Christmas? Yeah, I have. I have many times. There used to be like because when I lived in Galway, there was like a little shopping center, and I remember there specifically being like it wasn't like a stall, it was like a booth, kind of, and it had like a bunch of rocks in here, and I was always just like looking at them longingly, being like, oh, it's so pretty, I want one, and I had like a few. I think I had malachite, I definitely had opal, I think I had onyx, as well, probably some, I'm not sure. I think it was sunstone, but like I don't know if it was specific sunstone. I forget because the last time I was interested in this stuff, I was like probably like 16, 17. So it's been a long time. Do you own a tarot card? No, I don't. But I've always wanted one. But because I've heard that buying it yourself is really bad luck, then I have not bought one. You're supposed to like receive it as a gift, I'm pretty sure. So I have not. I have not. Bad luck. Yeah, it's supposed to like give you bad energy. I don't know. It's just like a thing. I don't know. Throwing tarot cards. No, because technically, like, I'll get the money from Throne, and then I have to still purchase it myself. So like, I preferably I'd get it sent to me somehow. But like, I see the digital tarot card deck from JoJo. Goddamn. I actually don't even know which ones I'd want. I've always just like seen like tarot cards and be like, man, those are cool, wow, and then I just speaking of tarot, oh my god, guys, I forgot because I was really struggling with this actually. Let me see, where are you? And I'm so sorry. Oh fuck, there you go. Where did it go? Is it because okay, loop? There you go. I need somebody and always. I chose the Hermit because I felt like it was the most accurate for my lore. I guess. I actually sat down and I had to like read all of the descriptions, just so I knew that I'd be educated about this stuff, and I actually got a stinger, but I'm actually like, I don't know, like illiterate, and I cannot green screen the stinger. I tried so hard, but unfortunately, CapCut doesn't actually support like transparent files, which is stupid. And I don't want to like download DaVinci Resolve, so I've taken the L. But yeah, it's kind of cool, I am the hermit, because I live alone. Well, not in real life, but I guess there is a semblance of loneliness in my life that I feel like this card applies to. Anyway, let's stop getting a little bit too intense in that. Also, I'm pretty sure I could have like probably read like at least another story in the time that I've been yapping, but I feel like I haven't streamed for like 2 days, and obviously I'm clingy, so I want to talk. You know. 77 more cards to get into a full card deck. Man, I'm about to commission that dude just to get a full deck. Entire day with Vivian and everything with friends. That'd be cool. If I was so like interested in that kind of stuff, I definitely would. But it's not my field. You guys will be gifted to you if I go. Okay, but they will be gifted to me. Flashback. I'm sorry. I apologize. But yes, that was me for tonight. Tomorrow we're gonna play some Elden Ring. I do have to do some cleaning, and I will be making burgers tomorrow. I think. Maybe. I'm making homemade burgers, and I'm not buying the patties this time. I'm actually gonna make them with my own two fingies. My dye-stained fingies. I hope they'll end up well. I've never actually made like the patties myself. I always just bought them like pre-made, but because my dad actually we went shopping yesterday, and my dad's is like very strictly like buying food with very low carbohydrates. So my diet is gonna change drastically. I feel like I'm having deja vu because my mother would like constantly make me eat like healthy bio food, and I literally had to put my foot down and say, okay, Father, listen, I can put up with a lot, but please, no oat milk and no cooking on coconut oil. And I just had to tell him, like, please, you can literally anything else. It's just those two things, please, no. And yeah, so that's, yeah. Deja vu, but maybe I'll start, like, eating a little bit healthier, because I feel like because the way my aunt would cook is everything on oil, very greasy, a lot of portions. But I feel like we're probably gonna be like a little bit healthier now. But yes, I'm afraid. But I got I'm gonna make katsu curry, and I got Kewpie mayo. I finally got Kewpie mayo. I've always really wanted to try it because I heard it's like actually like way nicer and it's kind of sweet. And I'm so intrigued. I actually do want to try it, but I don't know with what. So yes, but it looks good. And I got some. I've been talking to my dad about like because we bought rice noodles and also we got some udon to like substitute for like the normal actually no, it was konjac cologne. Konjac noodles, konjac udon to substitute for like a normal pasta, because normal pasta has a lot of carbohydrates, and he's trying to like stay away from that because it like brings up his blood sugar. But yes, cognac. That just sounds like alcohol. I'm pretty sure that there's a cognac in alcohol as well. Cuban mayo is good. I like it better than regular mayo. I've heard that. I have heard that. Cognac has like 25 calories, but it's annoying to cook. Is it? Well, we bought like one of those like pre-made, and it's like sloshy on the inside. I'm kind of scared to open it, but yeah, we're gonna probably, hopefully, maybe like actually like start cooking stuff, and I'm gonna maybe look at some Asian recipes. I was trying to like see if some like noodles, like actual noodles would be fine, but they're also high in carbohydrates, so like and he can't even eat rice, bro. He can't even eat rice. Like what is an existence without rice? See, I can live without pasta, but living without rice is crazy. Do you look up how to cook it? It has a fishy taste if you don't do some stuff to it first. Oh my, I'll have to tell my dad. Good with egg salad. I don't know. I tried to potato. He also can't. I don't think he can eat potatoes. It's just terrible, pitiful existence at this point. And see, I'm chatting doo-doo about him, but like I'm literally caught in the crossfire. See, technically I could be making stuff for myself, but really it's gonna be easier for if I just like cook for us. So it's like it's more convenient. But I guess yeah. I'm caught in the crosshair. No, my okay, maybe I won't be joking about that just yet, but yeah, noodles are usually tasteless, depends on the brand. I hope they will be. Well, I hope they will. Well, okay. I hope they taste bad. Well, no, I hope they don't taste bad, and I prefer if they just like tasted like nothing, so that like I don't have to taste the bad. After it cooks, it's actually an extremely healthy food choice. By the way, keto friend. Yeah, he's been obsessed with keto. He's actually been obsessed with keto. He's like, ooh, Kara, you said you should go keto, and I'm like looking at him like, okay, please no, please no. And he's like, you should start going to the gym. Like he's just literally having his gym bro arc without actually going to the gym. He's been buying like protein and like supplements for working out, but he hasn't gone in a while. Hello, Ginter carnivore. Oh god, carnivore. No, carnivore. I don't know. I mean, I like meat, but I don't think I like meat that much. I don't know. Hit the stem to Jim Bro arc. See, it's funny because I told him, like, listen, now that you have a lot more free time and you're kind of lonely, you should probably start going, and he still hasn't gone. And I was trying to be understanding and nice. He also has these next 2 weeks off, so he's just gonna be like here. He's just gonna be here, and I don't know, man. I hope he's gonna be fine. I do hope he's gonna be fine. But that's yeah, I don't know. Like his blood sugars have been good. He actually went to like a dietary like a specific like diabetic dietary assistant, I guess, person that like will tell you like what you can and can't eat. And he said that everything's good. He can actually eat bread, but like whole wheat bread, not just like normal white bread, because it's carbohydrates. But his blood has been really good. I think it did spike right after dinner, but I hope it leveled out for him. He also forgets to take his medicine sometimes. Literally, there's been like at least 3 times where we'd sit down and he'd be like, "Oh fuck, I forgot to take the meds," like right after we've already finished eating. And there was one time when I was like literally like, "Okay, did you take your meds? Did you take them?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll take him in a second." And then he's like sitting down halfway through his meal and he's like, "I forgot to take the meds." And I'm like, "I literally told you." Because he also jokes like about the fact that like I didn't remind him. But I'm also kind of scared because I do have an appointment on the 6th for my a dermatologist. However, my medication stopped and I'm scared of another flare up. But so I hope I'll be okay on that part for me personally myself. Hee. That's just me though. But yes, other than that, everything is fine. Literally everything is fine. I guess I'm just existing. I'm looking forward to playing some Elden Ring. I have mayhaps cover on the way with a special friend who was a girl. It was real. It was actually real and actually interact with. Wow, it was crazy. Wow. She's not just in my head. There's no there's just some stuff happening in the back. I'm planning things, but whether or not I'll actually be able to like accomplish that with like brain and also trying to like I guess juggle work and I guess home now. It's been kind of hard to try to like adjust to everything, but I've been trying to wake up earlier and like try to handle it a little bit more. And then I'm still gonna be signing up for education soon, so yeah, that will be me. Yes. Okay. I will now go. There's this fucking dog that's just yelling all the time for the last like few hours. He's just been yelling. Goddamn. But yes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for chatting with me. And I will be looking forward to tomorrow's Elden Ring stream. I promise I haven't played any. Well, I have thought about playing it and like maybe grinding up some levels, but I thought it'd be funnier if I just like played it on stream only. So well, I might change my mind later, but I promise if I do anything off stream, it's not gonna be anything important. Yes, thank you for hanging. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and I'll probably be doing another one in 2 weeks or something. Whenever I feel like I don't have anything else that I want to do, and then we're just gonna slide in some reading streams. Because I feel like these are like kind of like, low effort and a little bit like, well, not low effort, but like a little bit less like emotionally and mentally draining. I mean, I kind of like lose the ability to speak after reading for so long, but like you guys get it. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Bye bye. Bye. Bro, I've been literally like listening to Afterlife. That shit is like always on the radio. I'm just like I was like driving with my dad in the car, and then it just started playing, and I was like, oh my god, Evanescence. And my dad was like looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, Evanescence. And I just like sat there listening. See you in the afterlife. Save me from this pain and fill the hole inside. You wonder why I'm all out of tears to cry. Today I'm not afraid to die. Yeah, that's me. I just like I can imagine myself singing it well, like on like full on like going like but like that's just in my brain. That's just me like vividly imagining myself actually performing it. But I feel like I never actually would, because I don't have the balls to, and so I'm afraid of my neighbors starting to like like clap me in the back of the head, being like, what the fuck, But yes, I hope I hope one day I can cover that, because it's fun. It's just a good song, and I feel like I could do it. Anyway, okay, bye.